Chapter 1680. Yang Kai's powerful spiritual energy caused the white-robed man's expression to change greatly, and in a fit of anger, he let out a loud roar and his entire body suddenly underwent an obvious change. Just like Fang Fengqi, who was killed by Yang Kai in Heavenly Fate City, the white-robed man's body suddenly increased in size and white needle-like hairs appeared on his exposed skin. 2 fangs protruded from the corners of his mouth and even the breath he exhaled was filled with green corpse chi. Leaping up from the ground, the white-robed man shot up into the sky like a cannonball, smashing a hole in the palace as his eyes filled with ruthlessness. Staring in the direction Yang Kai was coming from, he waved his 2 claw-like hands again and again, sending out one claw after another towards Yang Kai. Scram! Yang Kai roared, not even bothering to dodge as he wrapped his fist in black flames and sent a punch towards the white-robed man's face. The sky full of claw attacks collapsed and a huge force bombarded the white-robed man, causing him to let out a muffled groan as he plummeted down like a meteor. A moment later, with a loud bang, a human-shaped crater appeared in the ground. The white-robed man became more and more furious, but after taking a blow from Yang Kai, he didn't seem to have suffered much damage. Leaping out of the crater, he opened his mouth and spat out a round bead. The thick green corpse chi condensed into an arrow and shot towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai flicked his wrist lightly and summoned the verdant dragon bone sword. Pouring his Saint Chi into it, the verdant dragon bone sword let out a loud dragon roar and transformed into a giant green dragon that swooped down. Yang Kai stood atop the dragon's head and looked down at the white-robed man, his eyes filled with disdain. The corpse chi, which was enough to kill an origin-returning realm master, had no effect on this giant green dragon. Corpse chi was poisonous, but so was this giant green dragon. Naturally, it couldn't do anything to it. On the other hand, the giant green dragon opened its mouth wide and swallowed the green corpse chi that originated from the corpse bead, causing the white-robed man to panic. The distance between them was quickly closed. Staring at the dragon head that was growing larger and larger as it opened its giant mouth, the white-robed man was finally unable to remain calm. Letting out a strange cry, the white-robed man hurriedly dodged. The giant green dragon missed its target, but Yang Kai leapt down from its head and stretched out his hand, summoning the giant green dragon back into his dragon bone sword. Yang Kai slashed down fiercely. It was as if it was going to cut through the world. The long sword without any edge was exuding a terrifying aura. The white-robed man was shocked and hurriedly raised his arm to defend himself. Without a sound, a green light flashed, and an arm full of white hair was cut off and fell to the ground. The white-robed man was truly frightened this time. He had never had Yang Kai's of Yang before, Yang's before him. But of Yang Kai of this opponent of his of of course of this his of a minds, of him, he, and Yang BSS. SSS Yang's. His himps, his he ss. Yang of with death's Yang's man's spirit Yang of hurriedly rolling to avoid this blow, the white-robed man picked up his severed arm, stood up, and retreated. Only when he was 1,000 meters away from Yang Kai did the white-robed man stop with some lingering fear in his heart and turn to stare at his enemy with a gloomy expression on his face. Where Yang Kai had cut off his arm with his dragon bone sword, many granules began to grow and wriggle, quickly reattaching the severed arm. While the white-robed man was doing all this, Yang Kai just stood by and watched. Not stopping him, Yang Kai waited for the white-robed man to reattach his arm before suddenly grinning. "Have we met somewhere before?" Hearing him say this, the white-clothed man also frowned, and then came to a sudden realization. Pointing his finger at Yang Kai, he shouted in disbelief, "It's you, it's actually you. We really have met before." Yang Kai smiled slightly. "It was in the corpse cave, right? I remember you." When Yang Kai first saw this white-robed man, he felt he was a little familiar, but now he finally remembered. At that time, he and Yang had gone deep into the corpse cave in the Grand Burial Valley and had met this white-robed man face to face. The other party had even attacked him. At that time, this white-robed man was a corpse general level master and had forced Yang Kai to flee. After so many years, his strength had obviously improved a lot. "I also remember you." The white-robed man grinned. "It was you who sneaked into the corpse cave and stole many things, but this protector must thank you." "Thank me for what?" Yang Kai frowned. Thank you for taking away that mass of Sun's true essence. If it weren't for you, this protector would not have today's achievement. The white-robed man laughed. What does that have to do with Sun's true essence? Yang Kai was puzzled. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. The white-robed man sneered. This protector is Corpse Spirit Religion's white-robed corpse general, Kang Fei Rao. Boy, report your name. White-robed corpse general. Yang Kai raised his brow. Are there also red-robed corpse generals, azure-robed corpse generals, and so on? He remembered that in the corpse cave, he had seen several other corpse generals dressed in different clothes. Indeed. Kang Fei Rao did not deny it. Boy, my corpse spirit religion will sooner or later unify Shadowed Star. You are so young but have such good cultivation, why not join my corpse spirit religion? This protector will definitely report this to the religion master and make you a deacon. Not interested. Yang Kai curled his lips. Boy, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. This protector is also interested in your talents. Do you think I can't do anything to you? Can you? Yang Kai smiled lightly. As soon as these words fell, Kang Fei Rao's face changed greatly, because he suddenly discovered that Yang Kai, who had been 1,000 meters away from him, had used some unknown method to instantly appear in front of him. Yang Kai then stretched out his hand and formed a huge void crack in front of him, slashing towards him like a giant blade. Space Force. Kang Fei Rao's pale face became even more pale as he finally remembered that Yang Kai had been able to escape from the corpse cave safely because of his Space Force. Now, seeing him use such a technique, it was obvious just how profound his attainments in the Tao of Space were. A creepy feeling suddenly rose up in Kang Fei Rao's heart as he quickly retreated, barely avoiding the void crack. A trace of annoyance appeared on Yang Kai's face, but soon, a sly smile appeared on his face. Kang Fei Rao instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Just as he was puzzled, a huge force hit him from behind, causing him to feel as if a towering mountain had smashed into his back, causing the sound of countless bones breaking to ring out from his body. After suffering such a heavy blow, Kang Fei Rao opened his mouth and coughed up a mouthful of green blood, his aura greatly weakening as he fell towards Yang Kai under the influence of his momentum. In vain, Kang Fei Rao managed to turn his head around, wanting to see who could approach him silently and give him such a heavy blow. But after a single glance, Kang Fei Rao was dumbfounded. The one who had attacked him was actually a simple-minded stone giant holding a black stick. This stone giant didn't have the slightest aura of life, no wonder he couldn't sense it. Let's see how you dodge now. Yang Kai grinned as he waved his hands, causing void cracks to rapidly form and converge into a giant net that flew towards Kang Fei Rao, blocking all his escape route. Kang Fei Rao's expression changed greatly as he felt the strange power coming from the void cracks, took a deep breath, and suddenly stopped. The next moment, his entire body seemed to turn into nothingness as he quickly dove into the ground. It was as if he could merge with the earth. The void cracks that had converged into a giant net flew over his head, but they didn't have much effect. Stop him. Yang Kai's face sank as he knew that he absolutely couldn't allow Kang Fei Rao to escape underground, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find him. Receiving this order, the stone puppet's body flickered, and it disappeared into the depths of the ground. Immediately afterwards, an astonishing battle fluctuation spread out from underground, causing the ground to rise up and down like a wave. A moment later, accompanied by an angry roar, Kang Fei Rao burst out from underground, his whole face twisted in anger. The stone mongoose chased after him, the heaven-shaking pillar in its hand as if it was weightless as it swung its stick, forcing Kang Fei Rao to not dare to stop. Trying to escape underground in front of the stone mongoose, Kang Fei Rao could only be said to be stupid. Earth escape was one of the stone mongoose's innate divine technique. At some point, Yang Kai had arrived above Kang Fei Rao's head and with a flick of his fingers, more than a dozen golden blood threads shot towards Kang Fei Rao like golden snakes. In an instant, Kang Fei Rao was tightly bound. Kang Fei Rao still wanted to struggle, but the stone mongoose's heaven-shaking pillar had already swept over. Under this one blow, Kang Fei Rao's lower body was pulverized and his body was sent spinning mid-air. His misfortune didn't end there though. The void cracks opened like the maw of a beast and swallowed most of his body. By the time Kang Fei Rao landed on the ground, all that was left was a broken body. If it had been an ordinary person who suffered such a heavy blow, they would have long since died. However, the corpse spirit race was born from the dead and their vitality was extremely tenacious, so this kind of injury wasn't enough to take his life. A violent energy fluctuation came from his abdomen and spread to his limbs and bones, causing his flesh and blood to squirm and begin to repair his damaged body. Yang Kai stepped forward, reached out, and inserted his hand into Kang Fei Rao's abdomen, grabbing his corpse bead. The squirming flesh and blood finally stopped moving, but Kang Fei Rao remained motionless as he stared at Yang Kai in horror. His eyes were filled with resentment, but in the end, he compromised and sighed, "Speak, what do you want in exchange for letting me go? Are you negotiating with me?" Yang Kai smiled contemptuously. "That's right. Do you think you have the qualifications?" Yang Kai continued to sneer. "You didn't kill me because you wanted something from me, otherwise, why would you let me live?" Kang Fei Rao coldly snorted. "You're quite smart." Yang Kai nodded, "But you still don't have the qualifications to negotiate with me. I can crush an existence like you with one hand." Kang Fei Rao's expression became gloomy, but in the end, he couldn't refute. Chapter 1681. Kang Fei Rao also realized that even without the help of the strange stone giant, he was definitely not Yang Kai's opponent. This young man hadn't even used his full strength. How could there be such a powerful origin returning realm master in this world? Kang Fei Rao had thought that he had reached the limit of the origin returning realm, but today, he discovered that he was wrong. "Tell me, what is this sun's true essence all about?" Yang Kai's voice came. "Why are you thanking me for all your achievements? I don't remember doing anything for you." Kang Fei Rao glanced at him but didn't answer immediately. It wasn't until he sensed a destructive aura from the corpse bead that his expression changed and he quickly said, "You didn't do anything. Perhaps you don't know." "Oh." Yang Kai raised his brow. "Do you think the sun's true essence was just placed there casually?" "You're wrong. The reason why the sun's true essence was placed there was to use its sun's true fire to suppress the underworld spring well." "Underworld spring well?" Yang Kai's face changed slightly. Kang Fei Rao grinned. It is a passage that connects to the underworld, where a rich yin corpse death chi gushes out. This yin corpse death chi is useless to any living being, only harmful, but to our corpse spirit clan, it is a great supplement. With this yin corpse death chi, our strength can grow to the limit of the origin returning realm. Perhaps not the limit. Kang Fei Rao thought that he was already standing at the peak of the origin returning realm, but after fighting with Yang Kai, he realized that he was still far from reaching that level. There is such a thing under Grand Burial Valley? Yang Kai frowned slightly. Kang Fei Rao laughed. "How do you think the corpse cave was formed? My ancient Yang sex ancestors discovered the underworld spring well long ago, so they used the sun's true essence to suppress it. The reason why we were able to become the noble corpse spirit clan is also because of the corpse chi in the corpse cave. Before, we couldn't do anything about the underworld spring well, but after you took away the sun's true essence, things were different. So, shouldn't this protector thank you?" Yang Kai's expression became ugly as he said gloomily, "Shadowed star becoming like this because of me? Ha ha ha." Kang Fei Rao laughed to the sky. Naturally you have your reasons. Say, if the people on Shadowed Star learned about this, wouldn't they hate you to the bone? I've never been one to be threatened. If you want to use this to threaten me to let you go, then I can only say that you've made the wrong decision," Yang Kai sneered. Kang Fei Rao's expression changed a few times. In the end, he didn't say anything to anger Yang Kai. Now that his corpse bead was in Yang Kai's hands, his life and death were in his hands, so he naturally wouldn't be so stupid. "Who is your cult master? Was he one of the corpse generals I saw that day?" Yang Kai asked again. Kang Fei Rao shook his head. "No. Who is that?" "I don't know." "Nonsense." Yang Kai coldly snorted and increased the strength of his hand. Kang Fei Rao's corpse pearl immediately made cracking sounds, as if it would break at any moment. Kang Fei Rao's body trembled. Gnashing his teeth, He roared, "I really don't know. Cult Master isn't a member of our corpse spirit race at all. He suddenly came to the corpse cave one day and taught us some corpse cultivation methods and how to transform our clansmen. If it weren't for him, it would have been impossible for us to leave the corpse cave. I'm afraid he's still exploring the corpse cave. After all, no one has ever walked this path before." While Kang Fei Rao was speaking, Yang Kai had been observing his expression and found no flaws. There were only two explanations for this situation. The first was that Kang Fei Rao wasn't lying and really didn't know the identity or origin of this cult master. The second was that Kang Fei Rao's acting skills had reached such a high level that he couldn't see through any flaws. Yang Kai felt that the former was more likely. Then what is his strength? Yang Kai asked again. Kang Fei Rao hesitated a few times. Gritting his teeth, he said, "If I said that I didn't know what his cultivation was, would you believe me? What do you think?" Yang Kai stared at him coldly. Kang Fei Rao sighed, "But I really don't know what his cultivation is. He has never made a move before." Then how did he become the cult master of corpse spirit religion? Don't tell me that just because he taught you some cultivation methods to convert your clansmen, you were willing to follow his orders. How is that possible? Kang Fei Rao curled his lips. A trace of anger appeared on his face. "The reason why us brothers submitted to him is because he has." Before Kang Fei Rao could finish his words though, his expression suddenly changed, as if something terrible had just happened to him, his eyes suddenly widening as a look of shock appeared on his face, his expression one of extreme pain. A strange aura spread out from his body. Yang Kai's expression changed as he quickly withdrew his hand and retreated. The next moment, Kang Fei Rao suddenly let out a miserable howl, followed by a destructive aura erupting from his corpse bead, turning into a green flame that burned Kang Fei Rao from the inside out. Kang Fei Rao's mouth, nose, eyes, and ears all spat out green flames, making for a terrifying sight. In less than 10 breaths of time, this powerful top-level corpse general who had fought against Yi Shiyun was incinerated by the green flames, leaving behind only a pile of black matter. Yang Kai watched this scene from beginning to end and couldn't help feeling a chill run down his spine. Yang Kai didn't know what Kang Fei Rao had encountered, but he guessed it was related to the mysterious cult master of corpse spirit religion. Perhaps this cult master had placed some kind of powerful seal on Kang Fei Rao's body, so once Kang Fei Rao tried to reveal some critical information, this seal would immediately activate and detonate his corpse bead, creating a corpse fire that would instantly kill him. Although it was only a guess, Yang Kai felt it was quite likely. What a vicious method! What a vicious scheme! However, what kind of sensitive information was Kang Fei Rao trying to reveal that actually triggered the seal on his body? Yang Kai recalled the words Kang Fei Rao had said before he died. Although the other party hadn't said the complete sentence, Yang Kai could infer something from it. That mysterious cult master may have had some kind of artifact in his hands that could control the corpse spirit race. This was the most likely speculation. Kang Fei Rao was dead and could no longer be resurrected, so Yang Kai couldn't help feeling a little bit of dread towards this mysterious cult master. Being able to place such a seal on his subordinates, this cult master was obviously not an easy character to deal with. As for Kang Fei Rao saying that Shadowed Star's current situation had something to do with him, Yang Kai did not deny it. Perhaps it was because he had taken away the sun's true essence that suppressed the underworld well, allowing the corpse spirit race's strength to soar, but the most critical reason for this was because the mysterious cult master had taught him the corpse cultivation secret art and the method to transform corpse spirit. Without this method to transform corpse spirits, corpse spirit religion would never have been able to grow. So, Yang Kai only thought about it for a moment before putting this issue aside. Looking up, the Black Origin King Grade starship was wantonly crushing the corpse spirit religion army, each crystal cannon blast taking the lives of dozens of corpse spirit race soldiers or those who had surrendered to corpse spirit religion. While Yang Kai was fighting with Kang Fei Rao, the area around Liu Yang's desert was already filled with corpses. With a loud roar, Yang Kai flew up into the sky, his figure flickering as he wrapped himself in his space force and returned to the starship. "Return to the sect!" Yang Kai shouted. After this round of cleansing by the starship, Corpse Spirit religion had lost more than half of its forces besieging High Heaven sect. Even white-robed Corpse General Kang Fei Rao, who had been stationed here, had been killed by Yang Kai. The rest of them had scattered and fled, so there was not much they could do to kill them. Returning to the sect was more important. The people from Tongxian realm needed to be settled down. After all, they had been trapped in the sealed world bead for several years now, so the sooner they could come into contact with this world and familiarize themselves with its world principles, the better. Moreover, Yang Kai also wanted to know the current situation of High Heaven sect. It was rumored that High Heaven sect had suffered heavy losses in the past 2 years, and Great Elder Yi Shiyun had been seriously injured. It was unknown whether she had recovered or not. The 3 blazing flame rings of Liu Yang's desert were extremely overbearing, and even an ordinary Origin King-grade starship would be burned to ashes if it tried to enter. However, High Heaven sect starship was personally refined by Yang Inflammation, so it was naturally branded with Yang Inflammation's aura. The 3 blazing flame rings did not repel the starship, allowing it to easily break through the flame barrier. Only after the huge figure of the starship disappeared did the fleeing Corpse Spirit religion cultivators breathe a sigh of relief, each of their faces filled with lingering fear. Under the powerful force of the starship, they could not even muster up the will to resist and could only be slaughtered. Now that the starship had left, they naturally felt relieved. Without receiving orders to leave, no one dared to leave without permission, so after a short while, the Corpse Spirit religion cultivators gathered from all directions, ready to wait for Kang Fei Rao's instruction. None of them knew that Kang Fei Rao had fallen. It was not until an hour later that Kang Fei Rao did not appear. Feeling suspicious, they went to investigate the palace and learned that the white-robed Corpse General had actually died. Countless people were in an uproar. One of Corpse Spirit religion's 4 protectors had died, and High Heaven sect's Origin King-grade starship had returned. All of this seemed to indicate something. High Heaven sect was located in the 4th layer territory of Liu Yang Sand Field. However, after Yang Inflammation took back the first 3 blazing flame rings, Liu Yang Sandfield no longer had a 6th layer territory, only 4 layers remained. So, strictly speaking, High Heaven sect was located in the 2nd layer. The outer layer was surrounded by the 3 blazing flame rings, the inner layer was also surrounded by the 3 blazing flame rings, and further inside was the loft where Yang Inflammation slept. After passing through the flame barrier, Yang Kai glanced around at the familiar scenery and could not help feeling a little excited. Although Tongxian realm was his homeland, Yang Kai had lived on Shadowed Star for the longest time since he came to Star Territory. High Heaven sect was also located here, so he still had a strong sense of familiarity with this place. After all, this was the sect he founded himself, the place where his sect, High Heaven Pavilion, flourished. This kind of personal creation and support was irreplaceable. Chapter 1682. In less than an hour, High Heaven sect, located among the mountains, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The mountain road paved with white jade was clearly visible. At the top of the mountain road, there was a huge plaque with the words High Heaven sect written on it. Sure enough, this is a beautiful place. Ling Tai Shu stood inside the starship and looked down through the crystal glass, very satisfied with the current environment of High Heaven sect's headquarters. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Yang Kai stood to the side with a smile and explained to his Grand Master, what we see now can only be regarded as a part of High Heaven sect. High Heaven sect is composed of 81 peaks, 1 main peak and 72 auxiliary peaks, each of which has a different scenery, but because there were too few people before, we chose to settle down here. Even I haven't fully explored those peaks, but once everyone settles down here in the future, you can find a peak you like to live on. Good, good. Chu Ling Xiao also felt relieved. Before, they were a little worried that Yang Kai would not have a place to settle the nearly 10,000 people from the 3 clans. After all, the 3 clans had quite a large number of people, so if they wanted to completely settle down, they would need a large place. But now, looking around, there was lush greenery everywhere, with towering peaks rising and falling from the clouds and looming pavilions. Of the 81 peaks, there was enough space for all the masters from the 3 clans to settle down, and there was even a large part of it left empty. Will we live here in the future? Thunder Dragon Great Senior looked down with a flushed face. This place was hundreds of times better than the Beast Sea jungle on Tongxian Realm. Not only was the world energy extremely rich, but the scenery was also superb. If the monster race could cultivate and live here, their future achievements would definitely not be too low. A headquarter was a foundation. Thunder Dragon, as a monster race Great Senior, was well aware of the importance of a foundation to a race. Yang Kai, my demon race owes you. In the future, if you need anything, just say the word and my demon race will not hesitate, Zhong Yuan said proudly. Zhong Yuan spoke from the bottom of his heart, implying that he wanted to join High Heaven Sect. Yang Kai nodded. The monster race demon race was something Yang Kai had taken the initiative to bring out when he left Tongxian Realm. Strictly speaking, Thunder Dragon and Zhong Yuan did owe Yang Kai a favor, but Li Rong and Han Fei of the ancient demon clan didn't think so. Yang Kai was their master. They had vowed to follow Yang Kai for the rest of their lives, and they would only feel proud of it. Leaving the masters from the three clans to immerse themselves in shock and joy, Yang Kai commanded the starship to descend towards the huge square below while simultaneously sweeping it with his divine sense to see how High Heaven Sect was faring. But a moment later, he couldn't help but frown slightly. He found that there were about 1,000 people gathered in High Heaven Sect at this moment. However, none of these people had an aura that he was familiar with. Yi Shiyun, Wu Yi, Chang Qi, Howen, Huang Huan, and all the others seemed to have disappeared. Even the auras of the masters who had submitted to Star Emperor Mountain seemed to have disappeared. The starship was such an obvious target, but no one from High Heaven Sect came out to greet it. Instead, from the lofts near the square, countless unfamiliar divine senses stretched out and constantly scanned the area. This discovery caused Yang Kai's face to sink and his expression to become ugly. Seemingly noticing something, Ling Taishu leaned over and whispered, "Yang Kai, is something wrong?" Yang Kai sneered softly, "Something is indeed wrong. Grandmaster, you wait inside the starship for a while, I'll go take a look." "Good." Ling Taishu responded. Yang Kai waved his hand, opened the starship's hatch, and led Yang Xiuzhu out. Chu Hanyi, Lin Yu Rao, and Yang Xiuzhu stepped out of the starship. Yang Xiuzhu and the others obviously also noticed the problem, and after exchanging a glance with each other, none of them understood what was going on. But soon, Yang Xiuzhu circulated his Saint Qi and shouted, "Sect Master has returned to the sec." A long howl rang out. This howl spread throughout all 81 peaks of High Heaven Sect. Still, no one came to greet them. On the other hand, the divine senses that had been investigating the starship seemed to have become entangled and were silently communicating. The atmosphere in the entire High Heaven Sect suddenly became extremely strange. After a while, those divine wills dispersed. They seemed to have reached some kind of consensus. At this time, some figures flew out from the pavilions in all directions. Yang Kai stood on the square, like a towering mountain, exuding a cold aura as he waited quietly. Shua Shua Shua. Silhouettes landed nearby one after another, gradually forming an extremely terrifying force. All of these people were masters above the Origin Returning Realm, and there were even a few Third-Order Origin Returning Realm masters. However, when these people looked at Yang Kai, their gazes were all evasive, as if they had a guilty conscience, not daring to meet Yang Kai's eyes at all. Occasionally, a few of them would glare towards Yang Kai provocatively, as if they were looking at an enemy. Yang Kai glanced around and fixed his eyes on an old woman with white hair who was holding a dragon-headed walking stick. Standing next to this old woman was a beautiful young girl who had a First-Order Origin Returning Realm cultivation and was a rising star of Shadowed Star. The reason why Yang Kai was paying attention to this old woman was because he recognized her. This old woman was clearly Old Woman Feng of Myriad Beast Mountain. During the Battle of Dragon Cave Mountain, she had intervened at the last moment in an attempt to snatch the Emperor Jade that had fallen to Dragon Cave Mountain. Yang Kai did not have a good impression of this old woman. Although she had not been defeated by Great Elder Jin Shi of Demon Blood Temple at that time, she had not had any good intentions. As for the beautiful young girl next to her with a shrewd light in her beautiful eyes, Yang Kai remembered her name was Feng Yang. She was the granddaughter of Old Woman Feng. At this moment, Feng Yang was looking up and down Yang Kai with a pair of curious eyes, an eager look flashing across her beautiful face, as if she wanted to fight with Yang Kai to determine who was stronger and who was weaker. Yang Kai naturally had no interest in her. The other party was just a first-order origin returning realm cultivator. He could crush her with a single finger. Looking around, Yang Kai saw some familiar and unfamiliar faces, most of which he could not name, but judging from their robes, all of them were from first-class sects or great forces on Shadowed Star. Yang Kai also saw the current sect master of Colored Glass sect, Gong Ao Fu, and the younger generation's disciple, Yin Su Dai. The previous sect master of Colored Glass sect, Gong Xing He, had fallen while exploring the Emperor Garden and was replaced by his daughter, Gong Ao Fu. Over the years, Gong Ao Fu had also become a third-order origin returning realm master. Dai Yuan was not here. Yang Kai frowned, wondering where this beautiful yet ugly girl had gone. Logically speaking, she was a disciple of Colored Glass sect and should be with Gong Ao Fu. In all of Colored Glass sect, Yang Kai only had a good impression of Dai Yuan. After all, he had cooperated with this little girl several times. In the square, there was silence as Yang Kai just looked around coldly. The origin returning realm cultivator across from him also showed no intention of speaking. After a long time, Yang Kai smiled. Interesting, this sect master has returned to the sect, but none of the elders have come out to greet him. Sorry for the inconvenience. As for why these people had appeared in High Heaven sect, Yang Kai could guess a thing or two. When he was in Black Sea City, Yang Kai learned from Du Yangling that High Heaven sect had done a lot of things in the past 2 years. Not only had they frequently sent masters to rescue the human race elites, but under the orders of Great Elder Yi Shiyun, they had also opened High Heaven sect to accept the fleeing cultivator. These people should have come to High Heaven sect to seek refuge. After all, this was the last pure land on Shadowed Star, and with the protection of the 3 blazing flame rings, no matter how powerful corpse spirit religion was, they could not invade. No one could criticize Yi Shiyun's actions, not even Yang Kai. If he had been in High Heaven sect at that time, he would have done the same. Towards the fleeing cultivator, Yang Kai was not so cold-hearted as to leave them in the lurch. However, the current situation made him extremely angry. Although Yang Kai did not know what was going on in High Heaven sect, or why Yi Shiyun and the others had not shown up yet, he knew that there must be some kind of filthy plot going on. The origin returning realm masters on the opposite side glanced at each other before finally focusing their eyes on Old Woman Feng of Myriad Beast Mountain. Old Woman Feng did not decline and stepped forward with a kind smile on her old face. Sect Master Yang is too serious. Now that the world is in chaos, High Heaven sect has become the most indestructible haven for our human race. It is the last hope of our race, so it is understandable that we have come to greet you. Our human race. Yang Kai looked at Old Woman Feng with a smile, keenly grasping the key point of Old Woman Feng's words. Senior Feng seems to mean that my High Heaven sect has now become a shared territory of the human race? How come I, the sect master, didn't know anything about this? Old Woman Feng's face stiffened, not knowing how to answer for a while. She had not expected Yang Kai's words to be so sharp. A burly man suddenly stepped forward and shouted, Sect Master Yang, is it? High Heaven sect relies on its natural stronghold to prevent corpse spirit religion's army from attacking, so this treasured land has naturally become the last barrier for our human race. Now that the corpse spirit race is wreaking havoc in the outside world, no place is safe. High Heaven sect should serve the human race and share this treasured land. Does Sect Master Yang feel there is something wrong with this? You are. Yang Kai squinted at him. The burly man coldly snorted, Floating Mist Palace's palace master, Tang Fu Shui. Yang Kai nodded lightly. He had heard of Tang Fu Shui before, the strongest master of Floating Mist Palace, a third-order origin returning realm master who was on par with Fei Ji Tu, Qian Tong, and the others. After all, Floating Mist Palace's strength on Shadowed Star was not bad. Tang Fu Shui continued, if my Floating Mist Palace could obtain such a treasured land, we would naturally open our doors to accept the elites of our human race and contribute to the continuation of our human race's strength. Sect Master Yang, upon returning to the sect today, you immediately put on an air of condemnation. Could it be you want to drive us all away? As soon as this statement came out, Many people's expressions changed drastically as anxious looks appeared on their faces. They had managed to escape to High Heaven's sect with great difficulty, so if Yang Kai really drove them out, their good days would come to an end. In the future, they would likely have to face the encirclement of corpse spirit religion's army at all times. In that kind of environment, no one could guarantee their own safety. When did I say that? Yang Kai sneered softly as he swept his eyes around. What are you afraid of? Everyone who was caught in his gaze quickly averted their eyes. Chapter 1683. When did this king feel guilty? Tang Fu Shui's face turned ugly as he retorted with a tough attitude. A chuckle suddenly rang out as Feng Yang, who was standing next to old woman Feng, gracefully bowed to Yang Kai before opening her beautiful eyes and saying, "Junior sister greets Brother Yang. Brother Yang, please don't be impatient. You haven't returned to High Heaven's sect for a long time and don't know much about the situation here, so there may be some misunderstandings. Now that corpse spirit religion is wreaking havoc on Shadowed Star, all of us have fled to High Heaven sect. Brother Yang, as High Heaven sect master, is the master of this place. Please consider the overall situation first. If possible, why don't we sit down and talk?" Old woman Feng nodded slightly, clearly feeling that her granddaughter's words were very appropriate. Even Tang Fu Shui, who had momentarily lost his composure, calmed down slightly. "Who do you think you are? Whose junior sister are you? Don't try to curry favor with this sect master." Yang Kai glanced at her indifferently, not putting her in his eyes at all. Old woman Feng's face sank. Feng Yang's beautiful face was filled with anger as she grit her teeth and clenched her fists. Myriad Beast Mountain, where she came from, was not weak, and she was the granddaughter of old woman Feng, so her aptitude was quite good. Although she was not as famous as Wei Guchang and the others, she was still one of the best rising stars on Shadowed Star. Coupled with her beautiful face and shrewd mind, she had always been a target of pursuit for the young men of Myriad Beast Mountain and was regarded as a goddess. Even if the young men of other great forces saw her, they would definitely chase after her. She had seen too many people who were captivated by her beauty. As such, she had never put men in her eyes and felt that all men in this world were idiots who could be controlled by her. However, Yang Kai's reaction made her angry out of shame. Since childhood, she had never been insulted like this. It was as if she had taken the initiative to stick to someone's cold buttocks in public, making it impossible for her to back down. Just as she was about to open her mouth to refute, Yang Kai no longer paid her any attention. To Yang Kai, she was just an insignificant pawn. This made Feng Yang even more furious. Her beautiful eyes were filled with hatred and anger as she fiercely stared at Yang Kai, as if she wanted to bite off a mouthful of his flesh. "I'll give you the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Send someone out to explain the situation clearly to me. If this sect master still does not understand the situation, all of you will scram from High Heaven sect." Yang Kai's eyes swept around like a hawk as he coldly shouted. The audience was in an uproar. Those who had been avoiding Yang Kai's eyes and didn't dare to look at Yang Kai directly became angry and glared at Yang Kai. As for the experts who were hostile to Yang Kai from the beginning, they were all shocked. At this moment, the murderous intent in his eyes was obvious. Yang Kai sneered. His figure stood erect like a javelin, facing the various complicated gazes and emotions. It was as if he was in a violent whirlpool, and he remained unmoved. What a joke! He had even fought with a second-order origin king like Luo Hai, a Star Master, so how could Yang Kai be afraid of these people? Although the people in front of him were all origin returning realm masters. There were also many of them, but if Yang Kai really wanted to kill them, it was likely none of them would be able to escape from High Heaven sect. The vicious looks in their eyes were no different from a prostitute throwing flirtatious glances at a blind man. After issuing the ultimatum, Yang Kai no longer paid any attention to these people and instead spread out his divine sense, trying to find the people from High Heaven sect. However, after searching for a while, he couldn't find any clues from the 81 peaks. All the people from High Heaven sect had disappeared. This discovery made Yang Kai's face grow uglier and uglier. The current him. He could vaguely guess what had happened to High Heaven sect. One possibility was that everyone had been killed by these guys, which was why he couldn't find them. The second possibility was that they had all evacuated from the 81 peaks. As for where they went, Yongkai could roughly guess. The former was unlikely, although High Heaven sect didn't have many people in the beginning. Their strength was mixed, but after subduing those from Star Emperor Mountain, even if High Heaven sect didn't have many people, they were not soft persimmons that could be easily crushed. With the people in front of him, wanting to kill Yi Shiyun and the others was somewhat unrealistic. So, there was only the second possibility left. Yi Shiyun may have evacuated High Heaven sect to the deepest part of the Liu Yang sand field. That was the place where Yang Yun was hibernating and was protected by the 3 blazing flame rings, making it impossible for anyone to enter. Yang Kai didn't know why Yi Shiyun had made such a choice, but she had her own difficulties. Just as he was releasing his divine sense and thinking about this, an old man suddenly stepped forward and cupped his fists in a dignified manner. Sect Master Yang, this old master is Medicine Pill Sect's great elder Li Jianming. Sect Master Yang has just returned from a long journey and must have worked hard. Why don't you take a rest first before we discuss this matter in detail? Medicine Pill Sect. This sect was one of the most famous forces on Shadowed Star, and the reason for this was simple. The disciples of this sect were skilled in alchemy. Just like Medicine King's Valley status in the capital world, Medicine Pill Sect also had a special status on Shadowed Star. Medicine Pill Sect had 5 elders, all of whom were origin-grade low-rank alchemists. On Shadowed Star, these were extremely precious talents. Even Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon Sect had to treat these 5 with respect, not daring to show the slightest neglect. Li Jianming, as the great elder of Medicine Pill Sect, was a famous existence on Shadowed Star, on equal footing with the sect masters of the various great forces. Naturally, he was qualified to stand up and speak. When the old man spoke, he stroked his white beard and looked at Yang Kai with a smile, as if he was saying, "Give this old master some face." Yang Kai just glanced at him faintly before saying coldly, "There is still half a cup of tea left. If you want to compete with this sect master in terms of patience, this sect master is happy to accompany you. But what happens after half a cup of tea, this sect master cannot guarantee." After saying so, Yang Kai grinned, revealing a mouthful of white fangs, like a ferocious beast. Li Jianming's face changed as he angrily shouted, "Isn't Sect Master Yang being a bit too unreasonable? We came here to greet you, yet Sect Master Yang doesn't give us any face and even dares to speak such words that disregard the righteousness of the human race. Aren't you afraid of courting disaster?" Yang Kai's eyes were cold as he stared at Li Jianming like a sharp sword. Although this old man was an origin-grade alchemist, his cultivation wasn't very high, only a first-order origin-returning realm cultivator, so he couldn't bear Yang Kai's gaze and was forced to take 2 steps back. Fortunately, Yang Kai didn't want to kill him, otherwise, Li Jianming would have been seriously injured. "Bold!" Tang Fu Shui suddenly shouted, a murderous light flashing across his eyes. "You dare attack Elder Li? Boy, you have no respect for your elders. You are the sect master of a great sect, yet you act on your own whims. Fine, this old master will teach you a lesson so you know how to behave in the future." Tang Fu Shui shouted as he pushed his Saint Qi. His Saint Qi was of the fire attribute, so after circulating it, his entire body began to burn, making him look like a fireball with terrifying momentum. Tang Fu Shui simply stretched out his hand and summoned a huge flaming hammer from the void and smashed down towards Yang Kai. If it were any other origin-returning realm master, they wouldn't have been able to easily deal with this flaming hammer, but this was the full-powered blow of Floating Mist Palace's palace master. Even Yang Xiuzhu, Chu Hanyi, and Lin Yu Rao, who had been standing silently behind Yang Kai, showed dignified expressions. Yang Xiuzhu even took a step forward, preparing to take action. Yang Kai stretched out his hand to stop him and laughed. "Good, good, good. Someone finally couldn't help but take action. Since you caught death, don't blame this sect master." As soon as these words fell, Yang Kai leapt up and met the flaming hammer head-on with a fierce look on his face. Returning to High Heaven sect full of expectations, Yang Kai suddenly found that the sect he had worked so hard to establish had been occupied by a group of completely unrelated people. His disciples and friends were all gone. Yang Kai had long been annoyed. However, Before he could figure out what was going on here, he could only suppress his anger and communicate with these people verbally. Although it was unlikely, what if there was some kind of misunderstanding? However, Yang Kai had never imagined that his benevolence would be mistaken for weakness and that someone would be stupid enough to throw his life away. Yang Kai's anger completely erupted. Courting death. Tang Fu Shui sneered. Seeing Yang Kai actually meet his killing blow with his bare hands, Tang Fu Shui not only did not restrain his strength but also increased the output of his Saint Qi. In an instant, the flaming hammer expanded once again, and its might became even more intense. Countless people's eyelids twitched as they stared at Yang Kai, who was about to meet the giant hammer, many different thoughts running through their minds. The seemingly small figure and the huge flaming hammer finally collided, and in the next moment, Tang Fu Shui's face changed drastically as he was sent flying backwards involuntarily, as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Huala. The giant hammer condensed from a third-order origin returning realm master's pure Saint Qi and secret technique actually collapsed mid-air, turning into countless fragments that scattered in all directions. Yang Kai's figure leapt out, his murderous intent and anger condensing into a stream of light as he rushed towards Tang Fu Shui. Under Tang Fu Shui's incredulous gaze, Yang Kai swung his fist and smashed it down. Tang Fu Shui's reaction was extremely fast. Facing such a punch, he desperately pushed his Saint Qi to form a protective barrier around his body while at the same time spreading out his shi in an attempt to escape. However, as soon as his shi left his body, it shattered as if it had encountered its natural enemy, causing his body to be fixed in place and the surrounding air to solidify, making it impossible for him to move. Yang Kai's fist rapidly expanded in front of his eyes. There were no Saint Qi fluctuations, but this fist was filled with an aura of death. Before this fist even arrived, Tang Fu Shui felt his Saint Qi barrier begin to shatter and his face begin to hurt. No! Tang Fu Shui screamed in horror. At this moment, he no longer had the graceful bearing of a temple master, his face pale and his eyes filled with fear as he desperately tried to survive. Kong. Yang Kai punched him in the face. Chapter 1684. The onlookers who were not weak almost couldn't help jumping up in fright. From what they could see, Yang Kai's punch had directly smashed Tang Fu Shui's head into pieces. They could even clearly see the entire process of Tang Fu Shui's head being smashed, a scene that seemed to have been played countless times in slow motion. Everyone kept quiet out of fear as they stared at Kai Yang in a different light. The origin returning realm masters who had been looking down on Yang Kai were now filled with fear. They were well aware of Tang Fu Shui's cultivation and strength. Of all the origin returning realm masters present, Tang Fu Shui could definitely rank among the top 3. However, such a master had his head blown off by a single punch from Yang Kai, and he couldn't be more dead. Throughout the entire process, Yang Kai didn't show any signs of using his Saint Qi at all. It was as if he had only relied on his physique and the strength of his fist to accomplish this feat. No one was stupid enough to think that Tang Fu Shui had underestimated his enemy or had somehow led to such an outcome. Tang Fu Shui was Floating Mist Palace's palace master and a third-order origin returning realm cultivator who had fought countless battles throughout his life. With his rich experience, how could he underestimate his enemy? And judging from the way he attacked, it was clear he had gone all out. But he was still killed in a single blow. In other words, Yang Kai's strength had far surpassed Tang Fu Shui's, which was why he couldn't even take a single blow. Tang Fu Shui was a third-order origin returning realm cultivator, so was Yang Kai an origin king? Thinking so, a series of gasps rang out as everyone felt their lungs fill with cold air. Kill everyone from Floating Mist Palace. Yang Kai shouted angrily, not willing to give up. Yang Xiuzhu, Chu Hanyi, Lin Yu Rao, and the other two had long been suppressing their anger, but Yang Kai didn't say anything. They could only wait and see, so when they heard Yang Kai's order, all of them let out a roar as they pushed their Saint Qi and domains and rushed towards the dozen or so people in front of them. These dozen people had come with Tang Fu Shui and were all wearing floating mist palace robes, making them easy to recognize. Yang Kai obviously wanted to kill them all. He was like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain, or a wolf entering a flock of sheep. Yang Xiuzhu and the others rushed into the floating mist palace camp, and in less than 10 breaths of time, the dozen or so origin-returning realm masters from floating mist palace had been completely subdued, encountering no decent resistance at all. Strictly speaking, floating mist palace's force wasn't too weak, except for the dead Tang Fu Shui, who was a third-order origin-returning realm cultivator. There was also a third-order origin-returning realm master, 3 second-order, and 7 or 8 first-order. However, they had long been terrified by Yang Kai's terrifying methods. Yang Xiuzhu and the other two were top powerhouses who had survived the blood prison, so how could they resist the onslaught of these three? 10 breaths later, the square was filled with corpses. The smell of blood filled the air. Yang Xiuzhu and the others didn't say a word. They returned behind Yang Kai and stood there quietly. The entire audience was silent. Everyone could hear the fierce heartbeats in their chests as they looked at Yang Kai, Yang Xiuzhu, and the others. It was as if they were looking at a group of evil demons, their eyes filled with horror and panic. You actually dared to be so ruthless." Feng Yang's tender body trembled. She pointed at Yang Kai and said in an incredulous tone, "These are the last high-end combatants of my Shadowed Star's human race. If you kill them, who will fight against Corpse Spirit Religion's army in the future? Do you want to exterminate my Shadowed Star's human race?" Listening to her naive words, Yang Kai sneered, "Is that so? Since their combat strength is so high, why haven't they gone out to fight? Why are they hiding in my High Heaven sect instead?" Feng Yang was speechless for a moment and wanted to say something else, but old woman Feng suddenly glared at her. Feng Yang finally came back to her senses. Just now, she didn't know which nerve in her head had connected the wrong way to criticize Yang Kai's actions. Now that old woman Feng was glaring at her, her tender body couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, drenching her clothes. "My patience is limited," Yang Kai reiterated again. Everyone's complexion changed as they all stared at Yang Kai in fear, but no one spoke. Just now, relying on their numbers, they didn't take Yang Kai too seriously, thinking that no matter how angry Yang Kai was, he wouldn't turn hostile on the spot and would at least sit down and have a good talk with them. However, after witnessing Yang Kai's ferocious means and terrifying combat power, they realized they were wrong. This young High Heaven sect master didn't need to talk to them at all, he could slaughter everyone present by himself. In the face of absolute force, all schemes and plans were useless. After a long silence, old woman Feng sighed heavily and said, "There will always be new talents in every generation, we admit defeat. Sect Master Yang, please tell us." Yang Kai coldly snorted, "I just want to know what's going on with my High Heaven sect." Old woman Feng turned her head and glanced around, but everyone who met her eyes quickly averted their eyes, obviously not daring to speak to Yang Kai. Old woman Feng's expression dimmed as she said miserably, "Sect Master Yang, it's a long story, but we were forced into a corner. It seems you still want to test my patience." Yang Kai smiled wickedly as he began to circulate his Saint Qi. Old woman Feng's face changed drastically as she hurriedly retreated and assumed a fighting stance. "I'll tell you what happened to High Heaven sect." At that moment, a voice full of vigor called out from not far away. Yang Kai found this voice familiar and turned his head to see an old man with a face as black as charcoal walking over. Beside the old man, there was a man in his 40s following behind him. When they arrived at the square, the man saw the corpses all over the ground and exclaimed in shock. Treasure Trove Pavilion's Yang Pei and his disciple. Yang Kai had dealt with this auctioneer known as Old Blackface before and knew that he had a good relationship with Chen Tong, so although he was still annoyed, he suppressed his anger and nodded, "So it is Senior Yang. Sect Master Yang is too polite. This Yang will tell you what happened here." Old Black Yang Pei cupped his fists and quickly explained everything he knew to Yang Kai. Yang Kai listened carefully. 2 years ago, Corpse Spirit Religion had appeared out of nowhere and its influence had snowballed like a rolling snowball. Many sects and clans had been exterminated and uprooted, and the reputable sects were the main targets of the Corpse Spirit Religion. In front of such a powerful force and numbers, basically no great force on Shadowed Star could resist. Shadow Moon Hall, Floating Mist Hall, Colored Glass Sect, Clear Sky Sect, Myriad Beast Mountain, Medicine Pill Sect, all of them were destroyed one after another, resulting in countless casualties. Because of High Heaven Sect's special geographical location, corpse spirit religion could not do anything to it. When Yang Kai was away, Yi Shiyun took charge of High Heaven Sect and did not sit back and ignore the situation on Shadowed Star. Out of righteousness, she frequently sent masters from the sect to rescue these sects. Yi Shiyun herself personally took action. However, although High Heaven Sect was not weak, in the face of a behemoth like corpse spirit religion, this kind of support was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Not only did it cause High Heaven Sect to lose a lot of strength, but it also failed to save the situation. In the end, High Heaven Sect was forced to open its gates and accept the fleeing cultivator. The thousands of people Yang Kai had sensed had come to High Heaven Sect for this reason. After entering High Heaven Sect, these people felt as if they had suddenly ascended from hell to heaven, a stark contrast that made everyone ecstatic. Outside, they had to constantly worry about being hunted down by corpse spirit religion, unable to even heal their wounds in peace. But inside High Heaven Sect, with the protection of the 3 blazing flame rings, they no longer needed to worry about such things. They could live comfortably and safely here, and even if the outside world collapsed, it would not affect them in the slightest. What's more, the world energy inside High Heaven Sect was the richest on all of Shadowed Star. Even Star Emperor Mountain could not compare to the weakest peak of High Heaven Sect. All of them deeply fell in love with this place. Before, no one knew the situation inside Liuyang Desert, but after Yi Shiyun accepted them as refugees, they discovered that this place was simply a rich treasure trove. Who wouldn't covet such a treasure trove? The cultivator of every sect envied High Heaven Sect. If that was all, it would have been fine, as none of them were stupid enough to turn against High Heaven Sect as soon as they were accepted. But later, when Yi Shiyun wanted them to go with her to rescue other forces, the situation changed. They had come here with great difficulty and managed to save their lives, so how could they be willing to go out again and live in fear? As such, no sect cooperated. Instead, they were worried that their attitudes and practices would anger Yi Shiyun, lest they be driven out. As a result, after a series of conspiracies, they took the initiative and began causing havoc inside High Heaven Sect. Since High Heaven Sect accepted the masters from Star Emperor Mountain, its strength was definitely not weak, but in the past 2 years, many of its masters had died in battle outside, and almost all of those who returned alive were wounded, so how could it be a match for the joint forces of Shadowed Star's top sects? Yi Shiyun could only lead the people from High Heaven Sect to fight and retreat to the deepest part of Liuyang Desert. This happened 2 months ago. With Yi Shiyun and the others retreating, these people naturally occupied High Heaven Sect's headquarters. Although they were also worried that Yi Shiyun would counterattack after her injuries healed, they were more afraid of corpse spirit religion, which had gathered outside Liuyang Desert. If they stayed here, at least they could survive, but if they left High Heaven Sect, only death awaited them. So even though they felt uneasy, they each occupied a good location and stayed in High Heaven Sect's headquarters. That's what happened. After old black-face Yang Pei finished speaking, he fell silent. On the other hand, his disciple, Ren Tianrui, who was known as Little Blackface, opened his mouth and argued, "My treasure trove pavilion did not participate in this matter, and there were also some other great forces that did not participate." Yang Kai glanced at him and sneered, "Even if you did not participate, you didn't stop it, did you?" Ren Tianrui's face turned pale as he stammered, "We reported to Great Elder Yi. Then should this sect master thank you?" Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. Chapter 1685. Being ridiculed by Yang Kai like this, Ren Tianrui opened his mouth to defend himself, but Yang Pei raised his hand to stop him. "There's no need to say anything, this matter is our fault. Sect Master Yang may rest assured, this old master will take Treasure Trove Pavilion's people away from High Heaven Sec." Yang Kai gave him a deep look but did not say anything, simply turning his head to look at Old Woman Feng and the others and chuckling, "Good, good, good. Great Elder Yi is benevolent and righteous, but in the end, he rescued a group of ungrateful wolves. Very good." The origin returning realm cultivator on the opposite side all wore guilty and embarrassed expressions. Speaking of this matter, it was indeed a bit embarrassing. The people present were the upper echelons of the various major forces. Although most of them were as cunning as foxes and as ruthless as wolves, doing such a thing really made them feel ashamed. As such, in the face of Yang Kai's disdain, none of them could refute. They were even more afraid of provoking Yang Kai's anger and provoking him into a slaughter, so none of them dared to say anything. Old black-face Yang Pei stood to the side, feeling Yang Kai's thick murderous intent, his expression becoming extremely dignified. He wanted to say something but hesitated several times before eventually letting out a deep sigh and remaining silent. "Who is the leader?" Yang Kai shouted, sweeping his eyes across the crowd like lightning. Feeling this terrifying aura, everyone involuntarily took a few steps back, and in the next moment, most people's eyes gathered on Myriad Beast Mountain's Old Woman Feng. Old Woman Feng's complexion changed drastically as she shot a glance towards Yang Kai with dread. Yang Kai grinned. Old Woman Feng no longer dared to remain in place, and with a loud roar, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from her withered body as she transformed into a stream of light. She rushed out. "Want to leave? Leave your life behind first." Yang Kai shouted coldly as he stretched out his hand and grabbed towards Old Woman Feng. Old Woman Feng, who was 1,000 meters away, suddenly felt the space around her solidify as a visible void crack formed around her, wrapping her in the middle and cutting towards her like the sharpest of blades. "Sect Master Yang, if you have something to say, this old woman admits defeat. This old woman is willing to compensate you." Old Woman Feng cried out loudly, but she did not have the courage to resist this strange method and could only circulate her Saint Qi to resist the suction force of these void cracks. Too late. Yang Kai remained motionless, his space force erupting once again. In the void, the spatial rifts buzzed in unison. It was as if they had really turned into swords, cutting through Old Woman Feng's body. In the next moment, the aura of this third-order origin returning realm master from Myriad Beast Mountain disappeared and his body became tattered. Most of the corpses had been banished into the endless void. He fell from the sky. He was smashed into a pool of meat paste. Yang Kai looked at the other people from 10,000 Beast Mountain. The faces of the higher-ups of Myriad Beast Mountain who had followed Old Woman Feng here suddenly paled. Some people knelt on the ground and wept bitterly. Some people begged for mercy while others, like Old Woman Feng, made a prompt decision and tried to escape, while others knew they couldn't escape and just stood there with ashen faces, circulating their Saint Qi, ready to fight back at any time. Feng Yang was even more dumbfounded, her beautiful face filled with shock, as if she still hadn't recovered from her shock. Yang Xiuzhu and the others rushed out again, but this time, without Yang Kai's order, they knew what to do. 10 breaths later, all the higher-ups of Myriad Beast Mountain were wiped out, leaving only Feng Yang standing in place in a daze. The blood around her and the tragic deaths of her martial uncles finally sobered Feng Yang up. Her tender body trembled as her thoughts became chaotic and she made an unexpected move, rushing straight towards Yang Kai and shouting, "I'll kill you." Yang Kai just stared at her blankly, not showing any intention to stop her. Lin Yu Rao, who was standing behind him, took a step forward and waved her hand gently, sending out a stream of light from her fingertips. Feng Yang's beautiful eyes widened in an instant, and when she reached within 5 meters of Yang Kai, she suddenly fell to the ground, blood flowing from her slender white neck. At this point, all of Myriad Beast Mountain's members were dead, and this sect was completely erased from Shadowed Star. "You can't kill me." From the crowd, a panicked shout suddenly rang out. This old master is the top alchemist on Shadowed Star and has made great contributions to the human race. "You can't kill me." Yang Kai looked towards the source of the voice and found that the speaker was actually Great Elder Li Jianming of Medicine Pill Sect. His face was pale and after seeing Yang Kai's bloody methods, he couldn't help collapsing. "It looks like your Medicine Pill Sect is also involved in this." Yang Kai narrowed his eyes, his figure flickering slightly as he arrived directly in front of Li Jianming and stretched out his hand towards him. Although Li Jianming was Medicine Pill Sect's great elder, in the end, he was just a first-order origin returning realm cultivator. Years of alchemy left him with no spare energy to devote to the martial Dao, so his cultivation wasn't high and he didn't have much combat experience. When Yang Kai sent out his palm, Li Jianming didn't show any intention of dodging and instead just yelled, "You can't kill me." Yang Kai didn't pay any attention to him and simply smashed his head to pieces. Stop! A belated shout rang out, and it wasn't until Li Jianming's head exploded that this voice reached Yang Kai's ears. Turning his head, Yang Kai saw the other elders of Medicine Pill sect glaring at him. As soon as they met these cold eyes, the elders of Medicine Pill sect felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar and couldn't help shivering. The one leading them was another elder of Medicine Pill sect. He was the one who had shouted just now. Seeing Yang Kai staring at him, this elder clenched his teeth and said in a trembling voice, "Sect Master Yang, we are willing to submit to High Heaven sect, please spare our lives." As soon as this statement came out, everyone couldn't help feeling moved. Although Medicine Pill sect didn't have many people, it had always been a proud and aloof sect. When Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon sect were at their peak, it wasn't that they didn't have ideas about annexing Medicine Pill sect and forcing its alchemists to work for them, but Medicine Pill sect refused to compromise, so even if Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon sect were envious, they couldn't do anything about it. Every year, they could only cooperate with Medicine Pill sect and provide them with a large number of materials to refine pills. But today, the elders of Medicine Pill sect were actually willing to submit to High Heaven sect. Although Great Elder Li Jianming was dead, Medicine Pill sect still had 4 origin-grade low-rank alchemists. There were also more than a dozen Saint King-grade alchemists. This was definitely a force that would make anyone's eyes go red with envy. Any great force that controlled this force would be able to greatly increase its overall strength in the near future. Although the atmosphere in the square and Yang Kai's previous methods were chilling, when this elder from Medicine Pill sect said this, everyone couldn't help looking at Yang Kai with some envy. "We are willing to submit, please spare our lives, Sect Master Yang." The other elders saw that the situation was hopeless, so how could they dare act tough? One after another, they lowered their formerly proud heads and expressed their submission. Yang Xiuzhu and the others raised their brow as they stared at Yang Kai with slightly excited expressions, seemingly wanting him to agree to Medicine Pill sect's request. Yang Kai smiled playfully though. "I killed Li Jianming, don't you hate me?" The faces of the people from Medicine Pill sect changed slightly, the elder who spoke just now saying, "A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in, we just made the best choice possible." "Ha." Yang Kai chuckled lightly before his face sank and he waved his hand, "Kill them." Everyone from Medicine Pill sect was startled, even Yang Xiuzhu and the others were stunned, none of them having expected Yang Kai to issue such a ruthless order. However, none of them hesitated and after a moment of daze, rushed out one after another. The elder from Medicine Pill sect called out, "Sect Master Yang, this old master and the others are all origin-grade alchemists. Before he could finish speaking, he was killed by Chu Hanyi's palm. The people from Medicine Pill sect didn't have much combat power, so Yang Xiuzhu and the others didn't need to spend much effort to send them to the underworld. However, everyone had a look of pity on their faces. The people they had killed were all alchemists capable of refining spirit pills above Saint King grade. In the past, they were existences that no great force had ever been able to invite, but now, they had all become corpses lying across the square of High Heaven sect, their bodies gradually turning cold. Yang Kai, on the other hand, didn't care. If it had been anyone else, they might have really left these people alive. After all, origin-grade alchemists weren't easy to find, especially on Shadowed Star. Every alchemist above Saint King grade was extremely precious. However, Yang Kai himself was an origin King grade alchemist, and his little senior sister's attainments in alchemy were even higher than his own, so how could he care about a few trivial origin-grade low-rank alchemists? Giving them precious herbs to refine, Yang Kai was still a little uneasy, so he decided to just kill them and save them the trouble of wasting materials. After dealing with the two culprits, Myriad Beast Mountain and Medicine Pill sect, the anger and murderous intent in Yang Kai's heart finally subsided. Under everyone's shocked and worried gazes, Yang Kai exhaled and declared, "You now have two choices, submit or die." All the people here were origin-returning realm masters, so they weren't weak. Yang Kai indeed had the ability to kill them all, but relatively speaking, Yang Kai was more willing to subdue them. Corpse spirit religion was currently wreaking havoc on Shadowed Star, and High Heaven sect had suffered heavy casualties, so it was now lacking powerful thugs. The people in front of him were the best choice. Little Blackface, Ren Tianrui, had also said that many great forces had not participated in forcing Yi Shiyun and the others to submit, while others had simply gone with the flow. As such, after killing the main culprits, Yang Kai wasn't going to investigate any further. Presumably, the blood of Myriad Beast Mountain and Medicine Pill sect would be enough to wake these people up. As soon as these words came out, the square fell silent. Everyone glanced around at each other, but compared to the panic they had felt just now, their expressions had finally eased a lot. They were really afraid that Yang Kai's murderous intent would soar and he would wipe them all out. With the means he had just shown and the strength of Yang Xiuzhu and the others, no one could resist. No one was stupid enough to question Kai Yang's tyrannical decision. Compared to his previous thunderous methods, the fact that he was willing to make such a choice was already a show of benevolence. Many people felt as if they had been granted amnesty. Chapter 1686. So after a moment of silence, someone walked up to Yang Kai. This person was a man in his 40s or 50s, and after walking over, he cupped his fists with a dignified expression. This one is Extreme Path Sect Master, Wang Taizhen. I am willing to submit to High Heaven Sect and will obey Sect Master Yang's orders in the future. My Flame Shield Union is willing to follow Sect Master Yang's lead, even if it is a mountain of daggers or a sea of flames, we will not refuse. Boundless Pavilion is willing. Immediately, more than a dozen large and small sects expressed their intentions and stepped forward to salute Yang Kai. Yang Kai simply stood in place, his attitude neither cold nor warm, appearing somewhat unfathomable. With the passage of time, more and more forces submitted to him. In the face of absolute strength, if they still did not recognize reality, it would be tantamount to courting death. These people had fled to High Heaven Sect to seek refuge, so how could they be willing to die here? Although Yang Kai's approach was a bit overbearing and his attitude was somewhat uncomfortable, at least they were able to survive. Colored Glass Sect is willing to join High Heaven Sect. From now on, Colored Glass Sect will no longer exist on Shadowed Star. I hope Sect Master Yang can be benevolent and accept us. A beautiful woman walked up to Yang Kai and said sincerely. As soon as this statement came out, the masters who had previously expressed their willingness to pledge their allegiance all stared at the speaker in disbelief. Yang Kai also glanced over with interest and found that he actually knew this woman. The current sect master of Colored Glass Sect, Gong Ao Fu. Strictly speaking, she was Dai Yuan's honored master, but for some special reasons, Dai Yuan was not valued by Gong Ao Fu. On the other hand, Yin Su Dai was quite favored by Gong Ao Fu and was always with her, vigorously cultivating her. At this moment, the gorgeously dressed Yin Su Dai was standing beside Gong Ao Fu and even boldly throwing a few flirtatious glances at Yang Kai. Yang Kai smiled as he stared at Gong Ao Fu meaningfully and slowly said, Sect Master Gong, do you know what you are saying? Gong Ao Fu smiled, reached out, and brushed her long black hair behind her ear, saying lightly, this mistress is not a child, naturally she knows. Sect Master Yang need not worry. This mistress will take responsibility for her words. Submission and joining were completely different meanings. Before, the sect submitting to Yang Kai meant that although they would obey Yang Kai's orders, they were still not members of High Heaven Sect. They would retain their sect's name and status in their own sects. They would leave High Heaven Sect one day. He returned to his sect's headquarters. But if Gong Ao Fu wanted to join, things would be different. If she wanted to join High Heaven Sect, she would have to disband Colored Glass Sect. In other words, Colored Glass Sect was finished in her generation, but if Yang Kai was willing to accept them, they would become disciples of High Heaven Sect in the future. Sects without permission, sects is sects. Sect to sexes, sect. This was definitely a very bold decision. After recovering from their shock, the expressions of all the Origin returning realm masters on the square changed, and soon, most of them showed looks of admiration. Naturally, they knew what Gong Ao Fu was thinking. Now that Yang Kai had made a strong return and displayed astonishing combat power, only High Heaven Sect was an absolutely safe place on Shadowed Star. Joining High Heaven Sect at this time was undoubtedly the right choice as it would provide Yang Kai with much better care. But understanding was one thing. If they were asked to give up their sects and join High Heaven Sect, not many of them would be willing. Cultivators had always attached great importance to their own inheritances. They were branded with the brand of their respective sect, which represented a kind of honor that had been passed down for hundreds or even thousands of years, an existence they were proud of and recognized. Even young Kai was no exception. That was why the force he founded on Shadowed Star was called High Heaven Sect, not Nine Heavens Holy Land or Soaring Heaven Sect. Although the latter two sects had a close relationship with him, and he was even the Holy Master of Nine Heavens Holy Land. But no matter what, High Heaven Pavilion was his sect and he had a special feeling towards it, one that Nine Heavens Holy Land and Soaring Heaven Sect could not replace. Gong Ao Fu actually wanted to disband Colored Glass Sect and join High Heaven Sect, which showed that this beautiful woman had a much deeper vision than most of the people present. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to make such a decision that would bring shame to the name of her ancestor. Yang Kai stared straight at her, his eyes deep, as if he wanted to peer into the depths of her heart. Gong Ao Fu did not show any intention of evading, nor did she feel guilty, simply staring straight at Yang Kai with clear eyes. Does Sect Master Yang despise my Colored Glass Sect for being too weak? Seeing that Yang Kai did not respond for a long time, Gong Ao Fu could not help feeling a little nervous. Colored Glass Sect has suffered such a disaster, so there really aren't many disciples left. Only 50 people followed this mistress to High Heaven Sect, but of these 50, 10 are Origin Returning Realm Masters while the rest are Saint Kings. Being able to have 50 people escape is not bad, Yang Kai praised casually, still not expressing any intention to take a stand. Gong Ao Fu could not help feeling a little embarrassed. This mistress knows that there may have been some unpleasantness between Colored Glass Sect and Sect Master Yang before, but if Sect Master Yang can accept this mistress, in the future, this mistress will be willing to sacrifice her life for her. For a woman to be able to say such words, she must have made a great deal of determination. Even an average man would not be able to utter such bold words. As soon as these words fell, Gong Ao Fu shouted again, "Su Dai, kneel down and apologize to Sect Master Yang. I know you've done something to make Sect Master Yang angry before." Hearing this, Yin Su Dai's tender body trembled as she shot a pitiful look towards Yang Kai, but she did not show any intention of disobeying Gong Ao Fu and really knelt down in front of everyone, pleading softly. Su Dai was not sensible before and offended Sect Master Yang. I ask Sect Master Yang to be magnanimous and not bother with me. She was now a master of the First Order Origin Returning Realm, so if not for Gong Ao Fu's order, it would have been impossible for her to do such a disgraceful thing. Otherwise, if word of this were to spread, she would never be able to see anyone again. Sect Master Yang, you. Gong Ao Fu looked at Yang Kai expectantly. Yang Kai pondered for a moment before narrowing his eyes and turning to Gong Ao Fu. I want to know where Dai Yuan went. Does Sect Master Gong know her whereabouts? Dai Yuan was definitely one of Yang Kai's few friends on Shadowed Star. Although their friendship was not too deep, it was definitely not shallow. However, since Yang Kai had appeared until now, he had not been able to find any trace of Dai Yuan. It stood to reason that if Dai Yuan had really fled to High Heaven Sect, she would have definitely appeared. However, Yang Kai's failure to find her made him a little annoyed, wondering if Dai Yuan had met with some kind of accident. Hearing Yang Kai's question, Gong Ao Fu actually breathed a sigh of relief and smiled tenderly. If Sect Master Yang is worried about the safety of this mistress disciple, this mistress can assure you that there is no need for such concern. What do you mean? Dai Yuan retreated to the deepest part of Liu Yang Sand Field with Great Elder Yi that day, so she is now very safe. Yang Kai's expression changed as he could not help feeling a little emotional. Dai Yuan retreating to the deepest part of Liu Yang Sand Field with Yi Shiyun was something Yang Kai could more or less guess. Presumably, Dai Yuan did not want to associate herself with these people in the square, so she left the sect without hesitation and chose Yi Shiyun's side. There was definitely a reason for this. If it were not for his friendship with Dai Yuan, she would not have committed such a betrayal of her sect. Yang Kai felt a little moved in his heart. He did not have many friends on Shadowed Star, but each one of them was worthy of deep friendship. There was no need to mention Wei Guchang and Dong Xiena. In order to rescue Fei Ji too, they had willingly thrown themselves into a trap, disregarding their own lives. Dai Yuan's actions were tantamount to betraying her sect. This mistress wonders if Sect Master Yang is satisfied with this answer. Although Gong Ao Fu asked this question, her face was full of smiles. She had already guessed what Yang Kai was thinking, so there was no longer any uneasiness on her face. Yang Kai laughed, stretched out his hand, and pulled Yin Su Dai up, nodding. Since Sect Master Gong has such intentions, Sect Master would appear too unreasonable if he refused. From now on, Colored Glass Sect's disciples will be my High Heaven Sect's disciples. I hope we can share trials and tribulations together. Gong Ao Fu got the answer she wanted and was overjoyed. Many thanks for Sect Master's approval. This mistress greets Sect Master. She immediately changed the way she addressed Yang Kai, drawing closer the relationship between herself and Yang Kai. Disciple greets Sect Master. Yin Su Dai also bowed gracefully, her pretty face blushing slightly, causing one's imagination to run wild. However, Yang Kai, who knew her temperament well, naturally would not be deceived by her pretentious appearance. This little girl cultivated charm techniques, so it was easy for her to change her temperament to attract a man's attention. She didn't even think about letting go of Yang Kai's hand and simply held it tightly, a look of pure bliss on her face. Yang Kai's lips curled slightly as he glanced at her meaningfully, pulling back his hand without a trace before saying, Sect Master Gong's strength is extraordinary. Since you have entered High Heaven Sect, you will serve as an elder. The original disciples of Colored Glass Sect will all be under your command. Gong Ao Fu's mouth opened slightly as her beautiful eyes filled with gratitude. Although she would not be ostracized or oppressed after entering High Heaven Sect, Yang Kai did not disperse the original disciples of Colored Glass Sect and instead allowed Gong Ao Fu to lead them. Even granting her the position of elder, naturally moved this beautiful woman greatly. If there is an opportunity in the future, Elder Gong can also restore the glory of Colored Glass Sect. Sect Master will not restrict you. Yang Kai thought for a moment before throwing out another bombshell. This time, Gong Ao Fu immediately showed a look of loyalty, her eyes slightly red as she bowed deeply. This mistress thanks Sect Master for his kindness. This mistress will do her best to contribute to High Heaven Sect and will not fail to live up to Sect Master's high expectations. This time, she was truly dead set on following Kai Yang. Joining High Heaven Sect was just a stopgap measure to protect the last of Colored Glass Sect's bloodline, but she had never expected to receive such a great reward in return. How could Gong Ao Fu not be moved? For a time, the people from the other sects showed looks of regret. Chapter 1687. None of them had expected that Yang Kai would be so kind as to allow Colored Glass Sect to be rebuilt in the future. If they had known this would happen, they would have joined him long ago instead of scheming against him. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret now. Although Yang Kai was easy to talk to, he was not a fool. After seeing the treatment Colored Glass Sect received, how could he accept it? Many people wore bitter looks on their faces, but they forced themselves to come forward and congratulate Gong Ao Fu. Gong Ao Fu was now an elder-level character in High Heaven Sect, so they naturally had to curry favor with her. Gong Ao Fu also seemed to shine brightly because of Yang Kai's words and responded to everyone with a smile, appearing quite generous and decent. After all, she was already a sect master, so it was a piece of cake for her to deal with this kind of situation. Yang Kai looked around before finally fixing his eyes on Yang Pei. Yang Pei's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and no one could guess what he was thinking from the changes in his expression. Seeing Yang Kai looking at him, he opened his mouth but eventually sighed and cupped his fists. Sect Master Yang, take care, this old master will take his leave. Yang Kai chuckled. Where does Senior Yang want to go? Yang Pei frowned. I don't know, I'll just take one step at a time. Corpse Spirit Religion's army was rampaging outside, and although Treasure Trove Pavilion's strength was not bad, it could not compete with Corpse Spirit Religion. Otherwise, Yang Pei would not have brought his people to hide in High Heaven Sect to seek shelter. Now that he was about to leave, his future was bleak, so he felt somewhat uneasy. If Senior Yang does not disdain it, you may as well stay. Although my High Heaven Sect is not a great place to be, it is not a place to be. Although High Heaven Sect is not extraordinary, it is large enough to accommodate your Treasure Trove Pavilion's people. Yang Pei's body shook as his black face glowed with excitement. Looking at Yang Kai gratefully, He hesitated a few times before lowering his head and saying, "This old master is ashamed." When the masters from the other sects made trouble in High Heaven sect last time, although the people from Treasure Trove Pavilion did not participate, they also did not stand up to stop them, only informing Yi Shiyun. For a benefactor who had accepted him and sheltered him, doing so would undoubtedly be unethical. But now, Yang Kai didn't care about their former enmity and took the initiative to ask them to stay, repaying evil with kindness. This made Yang Pei feel a little ashamed. That was why he felt so ashamed. He knew that too. Yang Kai didn't have much of a relationship with Treasure Trove Pavilion. The few times they had interacted with each other, it was all about benefits. The reason why Yang Kai took the initiative to ask him to stay was because of Qian Tong. Yang Pei and Qian Tong had a good relationship. "Old Mr. Yang, you are too serious. After we survive this disaster, my High Heaven sect may still need Treasure Trove Pavilion's help. I hope Senior Yang will not refuse when the time comes." Yang Kai smiled lightly. Sect Master Yang is too polite. "In the future, if High Heaven sect has any use for my Treasure Trove Pavilion, just let us know," Yang Pei said solemnly. Yang Kai smiled with satisfaction, secretly thinking that old black-face Yang Pei was quite tactful. Yang Kai opening his mouth to ask Yang Pei to stay was indeed because of Qian Tong, but the main reason was that Treasure Trove Pavilion could not be underestimated. Perhaps their combat power was nothing in front of Yang Kai, but Treasure Trove Pavilion had many businesses all over Shadowed Star and had many channels that High Heaven sect did not. If High Heaven sect wanted to develop and grow, having such an ally was naturally not a bad thing. Moreover, the culprits who forced Yi Shiyun to withdraw from High Heaven sect had all been killed, so Yang Kai's resentment had been vented, so he didn't intend to pursue this matter any further. If he had really killed all of these people here, it would have been a huge loss to Shadowed Star. Rather than dying at his hands, it would be better to let them fight against the corpse spirit religion and use their remaining strength. For a time, the square was filled with joy and harmony, but 90% of the masters present acted cautiously when facing Yang Kai, lest they upset Yang Kai. Only Gong Ao Fu and the others, who had already joined High Heaven sect, acted more naturally. Yang Kai had not returned to High Heaven sect for a long time, so he was very concerned about the sect's affairs. He was also quite concerned about the injuries of Yi Shiyun and the others, so naturally, he had no intention of continuing to chat with them. After waving his hand and telling them to return to their residences, he summoned the people aboard the starship and had them come down together. Yang Kai did not need to greet these people as Yang Xiuzhu and the others had arranged for them. Yang Kai hurried to Liu Yang's 6th layer of the sand field. What surprised him though was that before he even flew out of High Heaven sect, he saw a large mass of light approaching him from the distance. The aura at the head of this group was very familiar. Who else could it be but Yi Shiyun? Yang Kai was stunned, but soon understood. Although he had only fought in the square for a short time, he had still caused some disturbances. Yi Shiyun had probably noticed this and had brought the original High Heaven sect disciples out from the depths of the 6th layer. Since they had returned, Yang Kai stood in place and waited. A moment later, a group of more than 200 people, led by Yi Shiyun, landed not far in front of Yang Kai. Before Yang Kai had time to observe Yi Shiyun's situation, he heard Great Elder Yi ask, "Have you dealt with them all?" Yang Kai was startled for a moment before smiling. "Does Great Elder trust me so much?" Yi Shiyun said lightly, "You are the sect master, who else can I trust but you?" Yang Kai sighed and nodded, "It's been dealt with." Yi Shiyun looked towards the square and said softly, "The smell of blood is very strong, many people must have died, right?" Yang Kai sneered, "Myriad Beast Mountain, Medicine Pill Sect, and Floating Mist Palace, all 3 forces were annihilated." Yi Shiyun didn't have much of a reaction, but the people behind her all showed a look of excitement, as if they had finally gotten their revenge. It was these 3 sects who had misled the other masters into opposing High Heaven sect, and in the end, Yi Shiyun had no choice but to retreat. Sect Master Chang-Chi suddenly walked out from the rear and bowed to Yang Kai. "Sect Master should know that the reason Great Elder led us to withdraw from headquarters was not because we were no match for those bastards, but because Great Elder was afraid the fighting would affect the sect's disciples." My High Heaven sect's bloodline is still thin and cannot afford to suffer any losses. I know, Yang Kai smiled lightly. Chang Chi was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and without saying anything, he respectfully retreated behind Yi Shiyun. Yang Kai had thought that the reason why Yi Shiyun had retreated to the depths of the Liuyang Desert was indeed because she was outnumbered. After all, there were simply too many enemies, but after seeing the situation of these people, he immediately speculated the real reason. Although the number of people in front of him was much smaller than when he left High Heaven sect, and almost all of them were injured, Yi Shiyun seemed to be fine. If she had really displayed her strength, how could Myriad Beast Mountain, Medicine Pill sect, and Floating Mist Palace have been able to drive her away? The reason she had bravely retreated was entirely to take care of the others in the sect. She might be able to fight 10 enemies alone, but the others were not, especially the disciples of the Haiku family who had followed Yang Kai from the beginning. These people's cultivations were only around the Saint King realm. If Yi Shiyun had not retreated, they would have died without an intact corpse. In other words, if Yi Shiyun had chosen to fight to the death in that battle, High Heaven sect would not have had a good end, and at least half of the people in the square would have died. Since Sect Master understands, this palace has nothing to say, Yi Shiyun nodded lightly, her expression as cold as ever. How are Great Elder's injuries? On the way back, I heard that you fought with 2 masters from Corpse Spirit Religion and were seriously injured. They were indeed strong. I was not their opponent when fighting 2 of them alone, but there are no problems now. I should be able to fully recover after a month or so of rest. That's good. There will be many people moving into the sect soon, so Great Elder will be needed to make arrangements. Yi Shiyun glanced over at Yang Kai and snorted, "You seem to be quite happy." Yang Kai laughed, "That's not my strong suit. Moreover, I've been away from the sect for 7 or 8 years now, so I really don't know much about it. Forget it, I'll make the arrangements when the time comes." Yi Shiyun took over. The group of more than 200 people quickly returned to the headquarters. When Yang Kai released nearly 10,000 people from the 3 clans from the sealed world bead, even the calm Yi Shiyun could not help feeling a little moved. Although she had been warned by Yang Kai that a large number of people would be moving into High Heaven sect, she had not expected it to be such a huge number. What's more, these people were all brought back by Yang Kai from their homeland, so there was no need to consider their loyalty. In other words, in terms of numbers alone, the current High Heaven sect had completely surpassed any great force on Shadowed Star. Of course, it still could not be compared to Corpse Spirit Religion. Now, more and more people were joining Corpse Spirit Religion, and almost half of all Shadowed Star had fallen into the clutches of its army. With nearly 10,000 people from the 3 clans, how to deal with them was definitely a problem. However, Yang Kai did not need to worry about this at all. After Yi Shiyun gathered the top masters of the human, monster, and demon races, she asked them about their respective requirements and quickly arranged for them to settle down in different mountain peaks. These mountain peaks all had ready-made secluded palaces and buildings, so the 3 clans only needed to tidy up a little before they could move in. As for the original members of High Heaven sect, they still lived in their respective residences without any changes. In just a single day, Yi Shiyun had managed to arrange all of this in a hurry. High Heaven sect had absorbed nearly 10,000 new blood at once, so it was easy to imagine that at some point in the future, it would truly become the #1 sect on Shadowed Star. After nearly 10,000 people poured into High Heaven sect, less than a fifth of the 81 mountain peaks had been occupied, leaving the rest still unclaimed. The masters from other sects who had come here to seek refuge could only watch with envy, but there was nothing they could do. What's more, most of them had offended High Heaven sect before, so although Yang Kai was no longer pursuing them, they still lived cautiously, lest they offend Yang Kai somehow and be swept out the door. Over the next few days, Yang Kai patrolled the various mountain peaks alone, investigating the integration of the human, monster, and demon clans. The results were naturally good. No one from the 3 clans was dissatisfied with this place. Compared to Tongxian Realm, Shadowed Star was simply a cultivation paradise, not to mention that High Heaven sect occupied the most fertile land on Shadowed Star. Chapter 1688. After the situation in the sect stabilized, Yang Kai began to deal with other matters. The first thing he needed to do was naturally heal Yi Shiyun and the others. Of the original High Heaven Sect disciples, Yi Shiyun was not the only one who was injured. 90% of the other Origin returning realm masters were also injured. These injuries were all left behind during the battle with Corpse Spirit Religion's masters. Injuries caused by Corpse Chi were very difficult to heal, as the insidious Corpse Chi had a corrosive effect that hindered the circulation of High Heaven Sect Saint Chi. Only by using a special detoxification spirit pill could they be healed. Previously, they had not been able to recover from their injuries and had been forced to use their powerful cultivations to suppress them before using their Saint Chi to slowly dissolve them. This process was very long. However, after Yang Kai returned, everything changed. He teamed up with little senior sister Xia Ning Chang to refine a special kind of spirit pill that could detoxify Corpse Chi. After giving one to each of the injured people, the Corpse Chi disaster was instantly resolved. Without the Corpse Chi, with their cultivations, it was naturally not difficult for them to recover, not to mention that Yang Kai had also refined a large number of pills for them to take. As such, in just 10 days, the problem that had plagued the masters of High Heaven Sect for countless days was resolved, and the high-end combat power of High Heaven Sect was completely renewed. In this incident, because of Yi Shiyun's wise decision, High Heaven Sect did not suffer any losses. On top of that, before she left, she took away some of High Heaven Sect's precious treasures, including the red candle fruit, the 10,000-year incense, and the 9-branch jade crystal tree. On the whole, High Heaven Sect's headquarters had not suffered any losses other than being occupied by someone else. After Yi Shiyun returned, the red candle fruit, the 10,000-year incense, and the 9-branch jade crystal tree were placed in specific places again. The former was the key to refining the Origin King pill, while the latter two were great aids to a cultivator's breakthrough. Both had unimaginable significance and role for the entire sect. 10 days later, High Heaven Sect was completely settled. In the main hall, Yang Kai summoned all the high-level members of High Heaven Sect. No one knew what he was going to do, but they all gathered together on time to listen to his speech. Yang Kai didn't have much to say, first expressing his gratitude to the elders for their silent contributions over the years, then looking forward to the bright future of High Heaven Sect. They were all topics that were neither painful nor itchy. In the end, Yang Kai suddenly smiled mysteriously and turned to the crowd. On this trip, I brought some good things for everyone. Although these things may not be able to play the greatest role on Shadowed Star, they can be used to their full potential. However, it will definitely allow you to glimpse the barrier to the Origin King realm. He believed that as long as he accumulated enough, in the future, as long as I can get rid of the suppression of Shadowed Star's world principles, I can smoothly break through to the Origin King realm. As soon as he said this, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone stared at Yang Kai dumbfoundedly, as if they were unable to digest the news he brought. Even Yi Shiyun was taken aback, staring at Yang Kai curiously, not knowing what he was talking about. The Origin King realm had always been a legend on Shadowed Star, a barrier that even Yi Shiyun could not break through. Although she did not choose to leave Shadowed Star with Yang Kai and instead chose to stay behind, that did not mean she had no desire to break through to this realm. On the contrary, her desire to break through to the Origin King realm was stronger than anyone else's because she already had the qualifications to break through to the grand accomplishment stage. It was only because she had to protect Yang Yang that she chose to stay behind, lest there be no one to oversee the sect and an accident occur. At this moment, hearing Yang Kai's words, she was naturally very concerned. "Sect Master, what is this mysterious thing?" Gong Ao Fu asked with a smile. Although she had just joined High Heaven Sect as an elder, she had quickly integrated into the sect and was not a bad person. In less than half a month, she had already gained the recognition of her existence by the original High Heaven Sect Elder Committee. As such, she still had some say in this meeting. Everyone else also looked at Yang Kai curiously, looking forward to his answer. "It's this." Yang Kai did not keep them in suspense and instead stretched out his hand, grasped at the void, and took out a crystal-like object. As soon as this crystal appeared, a soft and mysterious power filled the hall, causing all the Origin returning realm masters present to show looks of shock and confusion. Although they could not see through the true essence of this power, They felt that it was more profound and mysterious than Sure, as if it was an upgraded version of Sure. Territory stone. Yang Xiuju's eyes were sharp and he immediately recognized the origin of this crystal. Chu Hanyi and Lin Yuarao also recognized it and exclaimed, their eyes flashing with pleasant surprise. What is a territory stone? Yi Shiyun's brow furrowed slightly. Of everyone present, her cultivation was the highest, so she was naturally aware of the indescribable mysteries contained in this crystal. She had only probed it slightly, but she felt as if her soul was being cleansed. It was easy to imagine what kind of benefits she could obtain if she cultivated with this crystal for a long time. Yang Kai glanced at Yang Xiuju with a smile and motioned for him to explain. Yang Xiuju did not refuse and immediately explained the origin and function of this territory stone. When they heard that this thing was actually a treasure condensed from the territory of an origin king realm master, the eyes of everyone in the hall lit up. After hearing that by sensing the mysteries of this territory stone, one could see through the power of a territory, all the elders in the hall breathed heavily as they stared unblinkingly at the territory stone in Yang Kai's hand, like a group of perverts who had just seen a naked beauty. Everyone's eyes flashed with naked lust. Territory stones are very precious treasures in the blood prison and can only be produced in Green Mountain Star's blood prison. Each piece is priceless. Although this Yang entered the blood prison once, he had no chance to obtain such a treasure, but Elder Lin's luck was quite good and she managed to obtain one. Yang Xiuju looked at Lin Yuarao with envious eyes. Lin Yuarao smiled and took out a territory stone from her space ring and shook it gently. Chu Hani watched from the side, envious to death. When they entered the blood prison, the three of them had separated, and although they did not encounter any disasters due to their tyrannical cultivations, they did not gain many benefits either. On the other hand, Qian Tong had broken through his own bottleneck after leaving the blood prison and broke through to the origin king realm. If one could obtain a territory stone, they would be able to comprehend the power of territory unscrupulously, an irresistible attraction to any origin returning realm master. Elder Lin really has good luck. Chang Chi sighed to the side. However, Chang Chi, Howen, Ning Xiongchen, Huang Huan, and the others did not care much. After all, their cultivations were only at the first-order origin returning realm, so even if they obtained a territory stone, their cultivations would not be able to keep up and they would not be able to comprehend the power of territory in a short time. They could only rely on territory stones to strengthen their Sure. After all, territory stones were the evolution and upgrade of Sure, so comprehending the mysteries of territory stones was extremely helpful to the cultivation of Sure. That being said, the importance of territory stones to origin returning realm masters was still not negated. Yi Shiyun was silent for a long time before suddenly saying, Sect Master, if it is convenient, Gong would like 10 territory stone. A burst of gasps sounded as Yang Xiuju and the others turned their heads and stared at Yi Shiyun with incredulous eyes. Others did not know the preciousness of territory stones, but Yang Xiuju and the others were well aware. The three of them had taken a trip to the blood prison, and only Lin Yuarao had been lucky enough to obtain a single territory stone, but Yi Shiyun actually wanted 10 at once. This was simply an exorbitant demand. This was not in line with Great Elder's style at all. Was this really the Great Elder that everyone respected and respected? Why did she seem no different from a common scoundrel? Yang Xiuju and the others could not help feeling a little dazed. Yi Shiyun snorted softly. Do you think Sect Master only has this one? With Sect Master's personality, if he did not have a great harvest, how could he display it so openly in front of so many people? He is not a child, someone who likes to show off everywhere. Hearing her say this, Yang Xiuju and the others came back to their senses and stared at Yang Kai with burning eyes, their eyes full of expectation. Yang Kai laughed dumbly and shook his head. Great Elder really knows how to read people's minds. I can't hide anything from you. Sect Master. Yang Xiuju gulped, feeling his lips go dry. During my trip to the blood prison, I did obtain a lot of territory stones. A lot. Yang Kai had no intention of concealing anything and stood up to look at the crowd with a smile. A lot? How much is that? Chu Hanyi asked in a trembling voice. Enough for each of you to obtain 10 pieces. Yang Kai smiled lightly. Sigh. Asterisk Yang Xiuzhu and the others gasped as they stared at Yang Kai with almost worshipful eyes. There were not many people in the hall, only about 15, including Gong Ao Fu and Dai Yuan, who had recently joined High Heaven sect. Gong Ao Fu knew that Yang Kai did not like Yin Su Dai very much and was instead quite concerned about Dai Yuan, so she had recently taken Dai Yuan along with her. As for Yin Su Dai, she was showing signs of falling out of favor and was not qualified to appear here. It seems that Gong underestimated Sect Master's ability and asked for too little. Yi Shiyun frowned slightly, her expression somewhat annoyed. Yang Kai laughed heartily. If Great Elder wants more, I will naturally satisfy you, but with Great Elder's cultivation and comprehension of Sha, I think 2 or 3 pieces are already too much for you. Any more than that would be useless to you. If Gong has no use for them, she can give them to others, Yi Shiyun said lightly, but forget it, 10 is 10. Yang Kai did not say anything more and simply waved his hand, sending 10 territory stones to Yi Shiyun. Without seeing her do anything, the space ring on her hand flashed and the territory stones were stored away, displaying the demeanor of a master. Sect Master. Yang Xiuzhu blushed as he rubbed his hands and stared at Yang Kai eagerly. Yang Xiuzhu was not the kind of person who would flatter others. When he was on Star Emperor Mountain, his attitude was upright and unyielding. After joining High Heaven sect, he was still like this, but this time, he had no choice but to put aside his old face. A third-order origin returning realm master valued territory stones more than others. Although he failed to break through to the origin king realm this time, as long as he had a territory stone in hand and comprehended its power, the next time he left Shadowed Star, he had full confidence he would be able to break through. High Heaven sect now had the ability to travel far, so Yang Xiuzhu believed that Yang Kai would take them away from Shadowed Star again. Chapter 1689. Yang Xiuzhu, Chu Han Yi, and Lin Yu Rao each received 10 territory stones. Yang Xiuzhu believed that with so many territory stones, they would be able to comprehend the mysteries of the territory's power. Coupled with their experience in the Blood Prison, the next time they left Shadowed Star, they would have a great chance of breaking through the shackles of the Origin King realm and reaching the peak. Everyone else was also given a different number of territory stones according to their cultivation. Yang Kai, who was at the second-order origin returning realm, was given 5, while Yang Kai, who was at the first-order origin returning realm, was given 3. As long as they could make good use of the gentle energy contained in these territory stones, it would not be a problem for them to condense their Sha to the grand accomplishment stage. It wasn't that Yang Kai was stingy and unwilling to give them more, it was just that it was useless to give them more. Although territory stones were consumables, they were different from saint crystals. Each territory stone could be used for a long time. The territory stones given out by Yang Kai were definitely enough for them to use. After giving out the domain stones, Yang Kai took out a large number of artifacts from his space ring, each of which had different appearances but weren't of low grade. These artifacts were all spoils of war from Yang Kai's recent killing spree. Most of them had come from the monster race masters on Monster Star and were all origin grade or above, many of which were high rank. With these artifacts, Yang Kai believed that the strength of everyone present would rise greatly, increasing their chances of survival in the future battle with Corpse Spirit Religion. As for how these artifacts would be distributed, that was not something Yang Kai needed to consider, as Yi Shiyun would handle it. There were also a variety of cultivation pills. Yang Kai's space ring was like a veritable treasure trove, and everything he took out was astonishing. After dealing with these things, Yang Kai took Xia Ningchang and Su Yang back to First Heavenly Palace. Since entering this forbidden zone, Yang Kai had been living in First Heavenly Palace. Although the area of this palace was not too large, it was definitely not small either. There were countless rooms inside. Previously, only Yang Kai lived here, but now, Su Yang and Xia Ningchang naturally lived here as well, accompanying him. Although High Heaven sect was safe and there was no need to worry about encountering any danger, Yang Kai still hoped to increase the strength of his closest friends. There was no need to worry about Su Yang. Now, she already possessed the Ice Phoenix origin power. With Profound Frost in hand and a third-order origin returning realm cultivation, on Shadowed Star, only Qian Tong would be able to do anything. The others were no match for her. How could Qian Tong attack Su Yang? Xia Ningqiang was about to break through to the second-order origin returning realm. Ever since he became the Star Master of Tongxian realm, her cultivation speed had become much faster than before, and she had been engrossed in alchemy over the years, which was coupled with her special constitution. Even if she did not deliberately cultivate, her strength was rising steadily, and she believed that it would not be long before she broke through. However, the first-order origin returning realm was still too weak. Yang Kai took out a turquoise artifact armor and a wheel-like artifact and handed them to Xia Ningqiang. Little senior sister, take some time to refine these two things, I believe they will be of great help to you. This artifact armor is so beautiful. Xia Ningqiang glanced at it but did not pay much attention to the wheel-like artifact. Instead, she was very interested in the turquoise artifact armor. Yang Kai chuckled. Although I don't know what grade this artifact armor is, it is definitely Origin King grade. With it, very few people in this world can break through your defenses. Xia Ningqiang was not very proficient in combat, so as a defensive artifact, this artifact armor was undoubtedly very suitable for her. Junior brother, where did you get this? This thing must be very valuable, right? Xia Ningqiang looked left and right, somewhat unwilling to part with it. It doesn't matter whether it is valuable or not, what matters is whether it can protect you for me. Xia Ningqiang raised her head and glanced at Kai Yang. Pursing her lips, she smiled with a satisfied expression. This artifact armor was brought out from the blood prison. When Yang Kai obtained the Monster King's origin essence crystal, he also brought out the corpse of Mad Crocodile Monster King, so there was no reason for him to let go of his space ring. Mad Crocodile Monster King was a top master in the Third Order Origin King realm when he was alive, so how could there be anything poor in his space ring? It could even be said that most of the artifacts and pills that Yang Kai distributed in the discussion hall before came from Mad Crocodile Monster King's space ring. Compared with this Origin King grade artifact armor, the rest of the wealth in this space ring was not worth much, but it still could not be ignored. At the very least, the huge wealth in this space ring was enough to support the current High Heaven sect for some time. Take this too. Yang Kai then handed over the wheel-like artifact to her. This wheel-like artifact was also an Origin King grade artifact, the sect-hallowed artifact of Heaven Battling Union, the Sun and Moon Golden Wheel. When Yang Kai fought with Heaven Battling Union's Union Master, Chu Zhang, and killed him, the Sun and Moon Golden Wheel was one of his spoils of war and had been hidden away ever since. With two Origin King grade artifacts in hand, as long as she refined them properly, little senior sister would not need to fear any enemy below the Origin King realm. Xia Ningqiang did not say much and obediently put away the green artifact armor and the Sun and Moon Golden Wheel according to Yang Kai's request. Glancing over at Su Yang, who had been sitting quietly nearby, she quickly kissed Yang Kai on the cheek before running out like a frightened rabbit. Her steps were hurried, as if she had done something shameful. Su Yang looked at Yang Kai with a smile and said meaningfully, Ningqiang's courage has grown after being taught by you. Yang Kai chuckled wryly. He had nothing to give Su Yang. When he was in Iceheart Valley, the most important Ice Phoenix inheritance had been handed over to Su Yang, and Yang Kai had even given her the 10,000-year Ice Jade Pedestal. With the assistance of the 10,000-year Ice Jade Pedestal, Su Yang's cultivation speed had greatly increased, and with profound frost in hand, Yang Kai believed she would no longer need to rely on other foreign objects. Yang Kai thought of Shan Qing Luo again. When they parted ways in the blood prison, he had given her 200 territory stones and the Origin King grade Thunder Fire 7 Birds Whip. Yang Kai wondered how this dragon lady was doing now and whether her cultivation was going smoothly. Yang Kai also thought of Yang Inflammation. Senior sister, you cultivate first, I'm going out. Yang Kai suddenly got up. Su Yang nodded gently, took out the 10,000-year Ice Jade Pedestal, sat down cross-legged on it, and held a piece of territory stone in her hand before closing her eyes and meditating. Yang Kai left First Heavenly Palace and went straight to the center of Liu Yang Sand Field. Although he had learned from Yi Shiyun that Yang Inflammation had been sleeping for many years and hadn't changed much, Yang Kai still wanted to see it with his own eyes. On Shadowed Star, Yang Inflammation was his closest friend, and if there were no accidents, this friendship would continue. However, young Inflammation's life was too complicated now, and no one knew what she would become after she truly woke up, so young Kai was naturally worried. The sixth layer of Liu Yang Sandfield didn't cover a large area, only a few kilometers in radius. Holding the Star Emperor token in his hand, young Kai easily passed through the barrier of Liu Yang's fifth layer and arrived in front of the bamboo forest. A lofty pavilion loomed behind the bamboo forest, and young Kai stepped forward. The sixth layer of Liu Yang Sandfield had always been a restricted area of High Heaven sect. In the past, only Great Elder Yi Shiyun could set foot here, no one else was allowed to enter, nor did they have the ability to. It wasn't until last time, when Yi Shiyun had to retreat to the sixth layer with her people, that High Heaven sect learned of the existence of such a place. However, the lofty pavilion was still a place where no one was allowed to set foot. Young Kai naturally wasn't one of them. Passing through the bamboo forest, young Kai easily arrived at the lofty pavilion, swept it with his divine sense, and went straight up to the second floor. On the second floor, the decoration was simple, with only a wooden bed and nothing else. Lying on the wooden bed, however, was a woman wearing a black robe with an exquisite figure. It was none other than Yang Yun, whom young Kai had not seen for a long time. Her appearance was no different from the Yang Yun from young Kai's memories, but her temperament was a little different. When young Kai walked closer to take a look, he faintly felt a sense of oppression from Yang Yun. Even though she was asleep, she still exuded a frightening aura. It was as if just looking at her was blasphemy, a blasphemy against a divine being. Young Kai was startled for a while before his complexion suddenly changed. Because in his field of vision, Yang Yun's appearance began to blur, and he could no longer see the scene in front of him clearly. At this moment, she became illusory, as if she didn't exist, but also as if she was omnipresent. Young Kai's divine sense was also pulled into an abyss by an invisible force, constantly falling down without end. Young Kai bit the tip of his tongue and let out a low groan. A sharp pain shot through his body, and the feeling of his divine sense falling suddenly disappeared, allowing him to refocus his vision. Cold sweat broke out all over his body and seeped through his clothes. Emperor pressure, it's really terrifying, young Kai muttered with lingering fear. Even though she was asleep, the emperor pressure emitted by Yang Yun was enough to subvert young Kai's divine sense, so it was difficult to imagine what she would be like after waking up. However, young Kai had only come here to take a look at Yang Yun. After all, he had not seen her for so many years. When he was still very weak, it was Yang Yun who had always helped him. Without Yang Yun, there would be no Dragon Cave Mountain and no High Heaven sect today. Young Kai was very grateful to her. Perceiving that there was no problem with Yang Yun and that she was still asleep, young Kai nodded secretly and prepared to turn around and leave. But just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly noticed Yang Yun's finger move slightly. This discovery caused young Kai's body to shake and he quickly came to a stop, holding his breath as he stared towards the wooden bed. An invisible force spread out from Yang Yun's body and wrapped around young Kai like the maw of a beast, not giving him any time to react or even resist. Immediately afterward, young Kai's vision blurred and he appeared in a somewhat familiar place. Below him was a roiling sea of flames that contained a terrifying energy aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Floating high up in the sky were a variety of different colored balls of light, and inside these balls of light, different scenes were constantly flashing at an incredible speed. Young Kai was unable to see what these scenes were. This is. Kai Yang wrinkled his brow, looking around, he quickly understood where he was. Knowledge sea? Young Kai exclaimed. Chapter 1690. Yes, this is my knowledge sea, a voice came from the side. Young Kai turned his head and saw young Inflammation sitting cross-legged in the void, forming a strange seal. Her expression was solemn as various halos of light constantly appeared around her, giving her an extremely sacred appearance. She looked at him with a smile, no different from the young Inflammation in his memory. Is it you, or her? Young Kai frowned, not daring to be sure. Young Inflammation pursed her lips and asked, is there a difference? Young Kai shrugged his shoulders, it may be no difference to you, but it is to me. I don't want to be killed here by her in a fit of anger. Those are the great emperors of Starfield. I am one of the great emperors of Starfield. Young Inflammation snorted. Forget it, it looks like it's you. Young Kai relaxed. As long as it wasn't the legendary great emperors who were talking to him, there was no problem. Turning his head and looking around, he asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "Nothing." Young Inflammation slowly shook her head. "I just felt your aura and brought you here." Young Kai smiled bitterly. He was no longer the ignorant boy he was in the past. His strength had also undergone earth-shaking changes. He was now invincible under the Origin King realm, and even dared to fight an ordinary Origin King. But in front of Yang Yang, he had become a small fish that could be pinched and squashed at will. Young Kai was greatly shocked. Seemingly aware of his thoughts, Young Inflammation giggled, "You don't need to undervalue yourself. To be honest, I have never seen anyone with a cultivation speed as fast as yours. Even in that place, you are considered a top genius. All you lack is the tempering of time. As long as you are given enough time, you will be able to stand at my height one day. Are you trying to comfort me?" Young Kai glanced at her and frowned. "What is this place you speak of?" Young Inflammation smiled but did not answer, appearing very mysterious. Seeing that she had no intention of explaining, Young Kai waved his hand. Young Kai waved his hand. "Forget it. Just pretend I didn't ask." Young Inflammation gently nodded. Suddenly, her expression became serious. "Although I have been in a deep sleep, merging my embodiment and soul, I am not completely ignorant of the outside world. I feel like something big has happened on Shadowed Star in recent years. 2 months ago, Yi Shiyun even brought some people here. What exactly happened? Is High Heaven Sect? High Heaven Sect is fine, but Shadowed Star is star. Shadowed Star is star." Young Kai sighed, flew over to Young Inflammation, sat down cross-legged, and told her about the situation with Corpse Spirit Religion's army. Young Inflammation listened attentively before finally nodding. "It turns out that below Grand Burial Valley, there was an underworld spring well. This is our fault. If we had not taken away the sun's true essence, that underworld spring well would not have reappeared. That's why I feel troubled. If it were any other matter, my High Heaven Sect could simply ignore it and just stay in the headquarters. Even if the outside world was turned upside down, it would have nothing to do with me, but in the end, this matter is partly my fault, so I can't just ignore it." Young Kai sighed. Young Inflammation obviously agreed with Young Kai's point of view and thought for a while before asking, "Can you go and meet the mysterious religion master of Corpse Spirit Religion? Are you interested in him?" Young Kai raised his brow. "It's not that I'm interested in him, I just feel that his method of transforming corpse spirits and controlling Corpse Spirit Religion is very similar to someone I once knew." "Who?" Young Kai was surprised. That person called himself the Corpse Emperor, and in the past, he also controlled a race that called itself the Corpse Spirit Race, which is why I was interested. Corpse Emperor. Young Kai sucked in a breath of cold air, his expression changing a few times. "Is he on the same level as you?" Young Inflammation was one of the great emperors of Starfield, and since this guy who called himself the Corpse Emperor dared to use the word emperor, he was obviously in existence on the same level as Young Inflammation. Young Inflammation nodded lightly. Young Kai's face instantly became extremely ugly. Young Inflammation pursed his lips and smiled. "You don't need to be so nervous, it's impossible for the Corpse Emperor to come here, so that person can't be the Corpse Emperor. I'm just guessing that he has some kind of relationship with the Corpse Emperor, perhaps an old acquaintance of mine. My old acquaintance has a good relationship with the Corpse Emperor, so it's not surprising that he knows how to transform corpse spirit." Young Kai grit his teeth as he stared at Young Inflammation. "Even if that person isn't the Corpse Emperor, since he's your old acquaintance, he's definitely not someone I can resist. If I rush to meet him, wouldn't I be courting death? Of course I won't send you to your death." Young Inflammation glared at Young Kai. "If that person is really as I guess, his strength will definitely not exceed the Origin King realm, at most a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator. Shadowed Star has its own world principles, so as long as he remains on Shadowed Star, he won't be able to break through." Young Kai's face relaxed slightly. If this mysterious religion master was really just a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator, then there was nothing to be afraid of. However, what is the origin of that old acquaintance of yours that you care so much about? Yang Kai asked suspiciously. Yang Inflammation was silent for a while before explaining, "You should know that the reason my body fell into a deep slumber was because I was seriously injured in a great battle, so I had no choice but to retreat to the Emperor Garden to recuperate. The old acquaintance I'm talking about is the one who injured me." Yang Kai tried his best to maintain the clarity of his mind and calmness of his soul as he asked bitterly, "Didn't you say that person died in that battle?" Yang Kai also knew some of the secrets of the past. The reason why the great emperors of Starfield fell into a deep slumber was because they had suffered heavy injuries in a great battle, and her enemy had been killed on the spot. But now, Yang Inflammation actually said that person might still be alive. Yang Kai suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Someone who could injure Yang Inflammation. There was no doubt that this person was on the same level as Yang Inflammation and the Corpse Emperor. "I smashed his body to pieces, but that guy's means of escaping are top-notch. Perhaps his soul managed to escape without me noticing. However, you can rest assured that his situation is different from mine. I was injured, but as long as I had enough time to recuperate, I would be able to recover, but his body was destroyed, so even if he wanted to recover, it would not be so simple. Especially on Shadowed Star." Kai Yang's brow wrinkled. Nodding, he said, "If that's the case, I can go and meet him, but even if what you said is true and the religion master of Corpse Spirit Religion is that person, what do you plan to do?" Yang Inflammation shook his head. "It's not what I plan to do. It's you. If that religion master of Corpse Spirit Religion is really him, you must kill him as soon as possible, otherwise, when he recovers his Yuan Qi, the entire star territory will suffer. You're one of the great emperors of Starfield. Can't you just slap him to death?" Yang Kai looked at Yang Inflammation resentfully. Yang Inflammation shook his head. "I can't act for the time being." Yang Kai suddenly felt like cursing, but after a long silence, he nodded fiercely. "Good, I'll go and meet him. You have to be careful, he has always been sinister and knows how to manipulate others to work for him. He rarely shows himself, so if you find an opportunity, you must kill him." "I know." Yang Kai responded casually. "Then go." Yang Yang waved her hand, and in the next moment, Yang Kai felt an invisible force pushing against him from his knowledge sea, trying to expel him from it. When he recovered, Yang Kai found that he was still standing beside the wooden bed. On the wooden bed, Yang Inflammation's eyes were closed, still in a deep sleep. Turning around, Yang Kai strode out of the loft. Although he had promised Yang Inflammation that he would meet this mysterious religion master, the other party's actions were so mysterious that even the white-robed corpse general he killed did not know his true cultivation or appearance. Finding him would undoubtedly be very difficult. Fortunately, Yang Kai did not intend to act alone. After returning to High Heaven Sect, Yang Kai immediately sent someone to send a message to Qian Tong. Now on Shadowed Star, Qian Tong was the true leader of the Shadowed Star field. With his Origin King Realm cultivation, he would definitely play a vital role in the next operation. Shadow Moon Hall should have been stabilized, and if Yang Kai wanted to solve the problems on Shadowed Star, he would first need to eradicate Corpse Spirit Religion. Qian Tong should be happy to join forces with him to deal with this mysterious religion master. Shadow Moon Hall was not close to High Heaven Sect, so even if Qian Tong wanted to arrive, it would take at least a month. While waiting carefully, Yang Kai was also improving his strength. In Iceheart Valley, Yang Kai used the Star Emperor token to fight with Luo Hai and broke through to the Third Order Origin Returning Realm, only one step away from the Origin King Realm. On the way back, Yang Kai's cultivation had also increased little by little, gradually approaching its limit while his Shi had also reached the grand accomplishment stage. With the help of the power of the Territory Stone and his experience in the Blood Prison trial, Yang Kai also had his own understanding of territory. In other words, if it were not for the current conditions, Yang Kai could already begin to break through to the Origin King Realm. However, Yang Kai was not in a hurry. His Third Order Origin Returning Realm cultivation was also the foundation of the Origin King Realm, so the more solid his Shi was, the easier it would be for him to form his own territory after breaking through to the Origin King Realm. Yang Kai intended to leave Shadowed Star after solving the problem with Corpse Spirit Religion while also dealing with a few things he had been worried about. These matters were crucial to improving his strength and figuring out the mysteries of Shadowed Star's territory. Time passed day by day, and High Heaven's sect remained undisturbed as almost everyone was immersed in cultivation. They all knew that these days would not last long. Once the time was right, Yang Kai would definitely attack corpse spirit religion. At that time, even if they wanted to cultivate, they would not have time. It was for this reason that the masters in High Heaven's sect began to cherish the time they had now. Every bit of strength they gained was a bit more life-saving money, allowing them to kill more enemies in the future battle with corpse spirit religion. After an entire month, Chen Tong arrived at High Heaven sect and immediately took charge of guiding the High Heaven sect disciples from outside into the headquarters. Since Yang Kai beheaded white-robed corpse General Kang Fei Rao, the corpse spirit religion army that had besieged High Heaven sect had dispersed. Now that High Heaven sect had finally restored contact with the outside world, they were more or less aware of the situation outside, so Chen Tong's journey here was unimpeded. Chapter 1691. After explaining his plan to Chen Tong immediately agreed. Chen Tong also understood the principle of capturing the leader in order to capture bandits. Corpse spirit religion had been like a rolling snowball in the past 2 years, becoming more and more powerful. The number of transformed corpse spirit race cultivators and human cultivators who had joined them was simply innumerable. Wanting to kill all of them was simply too difficult, so it was better to directly attack the root of the problem and kill the mysterious religion master of corpse spirit religion. After Chen Tong regained control of Shadow Moon Hall, he had also investigated and studied corpse spirit religion. All signs pointed to Grand Burial Valley as the source of corpse spirit religion's rise and origin. Before this, he had been considering whether to go to Grand Burial Valley to investigate the situation, but now that he had received confirmation from Yang Kai, he naturally had no reason to hesitate. Together with Yang Kai, he immediately left High Heaven sect and rushed to Grand Burial Valley. This time, Yang Kai did not bring anyone with him and only acted with Chen Tong. Even Su Yang was left behind in High Heaven sect by Yang Kai. Chen Tong was already an Origin King Realm Master, so his flying speed was naturally extremely fast. Although Yang Kai's cultivation was not as good as Chen Tong's, he was proficient in the Tao of space, so in terms of speed alone, he was faster than Chen Tong. In just 10 days, the two of them arrived at the Grand Burial Valley. When Yang Kai and Yang Yang came here last time, although Grand Burial Valley was filled with yin qi, making every cultivator feel uncomfortable, it was still acceptable. But now, when Yang Kai and Chen Tong arrived here and looked down from above, both of them could not help frowning. Down below, there was a thick fog. The entire Grand Burial Valley was shrouded in this fog, making it impossible to see one's hand in front of them. This thick fog was obviously filled with extreme yin and cold corpse qi, which was also poisonous. Any living person who entered this fog, if they were not strong enough, would likely be invaded by this pervasive corpse qi and transformed into a member of the corpse spirit race. Using their divine senses, both of them found that there were many life auras hidden in this corpse qi. Very active. These were undoubtedly members of the corpse spirit race. This was just the periphery. There were at least several thousand of them, and it was hard to imagine just how many of them there were in the Grand Burial Valley. Let's split up. Yang Kai, if you run into the corpse spirit church's church master, don't hesitate. Remember to send me a message. I'll go kill them all first. There are simply too many of them, Chen Tong warned, and immediately turned into a streak of light, like a bolt of lightning. It rushed straight into the Grand Burial Valley. Wherever the light passed by, terrifying storms and thunderbolts could be heard. The Grand Burial Valley, which had been filled with corpse energy, was cleared out by the Chen Tong, creating a clear path. The surrounding corpse spirit race was in a complete mess. Chen Tong didn't seem to make any moves, but it simply released its own territory field. The Wind Realm territory field pulled in all the corpse spirit race within a radius of more than a dozen miles and crushed them into dust. He obviously didn't intend to hide his whereabouts, and actually killed his way in so brazenly. Yang Kai just smiled lightly and didn't care too much. With Chen Tong's current strength, there was really no opponent on Shadowed Star that he needed to care about, so he was fully qualified to do so. Moreover, by doing so, he could attract the attention of Corpse Spirit Church and create an opportunity for himself to act. This was also the plan the two had discussed on the way here. In just a moment, the thousands of Corpse Spirit race people who had been detected by Yang Kai and Qian Tong were wiped out, not a single one surviving. The methods of an Origin King Realm Master could be seen clearly. Qian Tong was not satisfied, and he continued to advance with large strides. More and more Corpse Spirits were drawn out by him, and they were swept into his domain and died without knowing why. While Qian Tong was wantonly attacking and attracting most of Corpse Spirit Church's attention, Yang Kai had already disappeared. Following the memories he had last explored, Yang Kai went all the way inside. The origin of Corpse Spirit Church came from the underworld spring well in the Corpse Cave, which was the foundation of Corpse Spirit Church. Yang Kai naturally wanted to go straight to the Corpse Cave. If he could destroy the underworld spring well, Corpse Spirit Church would become a tree without roots, a source without water, and it would be much easier to completely eradicate it. Otherwise, with the existence of the underworld spring well, no matter how many members of the Corpse Spirit race died, they could be transformed into new ones. In the distance, rumbling sounds could be heard as strange voices constantly shouted. It was Qian Tong fighting with the masters of Corpse Spirit Church. Although he did not see this scene, Yang Kai knew that Qian Tong must have been slaughtering the Corpse Spirit race and forcing them to retreat. It only took him half a day to reach the entrance of the Corpse Cave. Along the way, he encountered some Corpse Spirit race clansmen from time to time, but how could these small fries stop Yang Kai's pace and were all killed? The entrance to the Corpse Cave had not changed and was not even hidden, still behind the concealment spirit array. However, this spirit array had been broken by Yang Yang last time, so it could not play any role now. Inside the Corpse Cave, a thick corpse chi was constantly rolling out. The density and damage of this corpse chi was far greater than that of Grand Burial Valley. Yang Kai released his divine sense to investigate for a while before jumping into the Corpse Cave. The Corpse Cave was darker and more humid than before. Under Yang Kai's perception, there were many stone rooms inside the Corpse Cave and there were many traces of Corpse Spirit race activity. However, the commotion caused by Qian Tong outside was too great, so the Corpse Spirit race clansmen inside the Corpse Cave had long been alarmed and were rushing out in a steady stream, obviously wanting to provide support. After Yang Kai entered, he immediately hid in a nearby stone room to avoid the wave of Corpse Spirit race clansmen. His current task was to find the whereabouts of the mysterious religion master, so he did not want to expose his whereabouts prematurely. The Corpse Spirit race clansmen did not notice him, so after they left, Yang Kai frowned and looked around, seemingly sensing something. The stone room was pitch black, without the slightest light, but this did not hinder Yang Kai's observation. At first glance, Yang Kai's face became gloomy. He discovered that there were many complete corpses stored in this stone chamber. Each of these corpses was wrapped in a thick corpse chi like a cocoon. Under the nourishment and effect of the corpse chi, the corpses that were wrapped in the corpse chi had undergone some subtle and undetectable changes. They were gradually approaching the Corpse Spirit race. Some of these corpses could already be considered half a Corpse Spirit race clansman. As long as they could absorb the cocoon-like corpse chi around their bodies, they would inevitably become part of the Corpse Spirit race. Sure enough. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Previously, he had speculated about the method the Corpse Spirit race used to transform their clansmen. It was impossible for every member of the Corpse Spirit race to appear out of thin air and would require a complete corpse to transform. The source of these corpses was obviously the disciples of the various great forces and sects that the Corpse Spirit race had attacked and killed. They would transport these corpses back to the Corpse Cave and use the rich corpse chi here to transform them. In a short time, they would be able to transform a new clansman. There were also times when the transformation failed. Yang Kai found some semi-finished corpses in this stone room without the slightest aura. These corpses had undoubtedly failed the transformation and were completely destroyed. The strength of a successfully transformed Corpse Spirit race clansman was directly related to their cultivation before death. The higher their cultivation before death, the higher their strength after transformation. Therefore, in Heavenly Fate City, The corpse spirit race clansman named Fang Fengqi needed Fei Tu's body. In any case, Fei Tu was one of the strongest masters on Shadowed Star. The corpses stored in this stone room did not have high cultivations before death, all of them below the Saint King realm. Most of them were just saints, with some even being transcendence or immortal ascension boundary. These transformed corpse spirit race clansmen were undoubtedly just pawns for the corpse spirit religion's army. However, in this corpse cave, there were countless stone rooms, so Yang Kai guessed that the deeper he went, the higher the cultivation of the corpses would become before death. Yang Kai did not linger and continued deeper. Soon, he found that his guess was correct. The deeper he went, the higher the cultivation of the corpses, gradually going from the Saint realm to the Saint King realm and then to the origin returning realm. However, the number of corpses was also becoming fewer and fewer. Yang Kai even saw a fully transformed corpse spirit race clansman crawl out of a cocoon-like object, as if he had been reborn. This corpse spirit race clansman roared towards the sky, his body exuding a nauseating aura, two sharp fangs protruding from the corners of his mouth, and needle-like white hair all over his body. Having just completed the transformation, this corpse spirit race clansman obviously did not know how to control his strength. Yang Kai continued forward without disturbing any of the corpse spirit race clansmen and gradually approached the place where he had obtained the sun's true essence. This place was originally the ancient Yang sect's treasure house. It had 3 floors, the innermost being where the sun's true essence and the 10,000-year ice jade pedestal were stored. Standing outside the treasure house, Yang Kai suddenly frowned, raised his head, and stared deeply into the depths of the room. Immediately, the corners of his mouth rose slightly as he strode forward and walked in. The first and second floors had corpse spirit race clansmen standing on both sides, all of them origin returning realm masters, but when Yang Kai walked in, none of them immediately attacked. Instead, all of them stared at Yang Kai fiercely, hissing and threatening as they watched him walk inside. After he left, these corpse spirit race clansmen suddenly swarmed forward to block his path of retreat. Yang Kai went directly to the 3rd floor of the treasure house. The 3rd floor of the treasure vault had undergone a huge change. The interior was decorated with gold and jade in a dazzling and luxurious manner. Numerous fist-sized luminous pearls were embedded in the surrounding walls, emitting a gentle light. The entire 3rd floor of the treasure vault had clearly transformed into a magnificent palace. In the center of the palace, there was a pool with a radius of about 3 feet. Yellow water was constantly bubbling in the pool. Yang Kai's eyes paused for a moment in this pool and immediately understood that this was the legendary underworld spring eye. The yellow water in this pool was not a liquid but a direct manifestation of pure energy. This kind of energy had no effect on anyone and was even extremely harmful, but it had a great effect on the corpse spirit race. Yang Kai even felt special space force fluctuations from the underworld spring eye. This made Yang Kai have some speculations in his heart, but he was not certain. Shaking his head secretly, Yang Kai looked up and saw a figure sitting on a chair in front of him. Chapter 1692. The figure sitting in the chair was dressed in ordinary clothes, but his face was covered in a strange layer of energy. Even when Yang Kai used his divine sense, he was unable to see his true face. However, Yang Kai felt that this person was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. This discovery made Yang Kai frown. If his guess was correct, this person should be the mysterious religion master of corpse spirit religion. However, Yang Kai could not feel any corpse chi from him. In other words, this person was not a corpse spirit. Could it be that, as Yang Inflammation said, this person was the one who had fought with Yang Inflammation in the past, but had mastered a method to transform and control the corpse spirit race, allowing him to act so high and mighty? Just as Yang Kai was pondering, the man suddenly laughed and clapped his hands lightly, saying in a tone of praise, "You really found this place, your courage isn't small." Hearing this person's voice, Yang Kai raised his brow and his expression became strange. Staring straight at this person, Yang Kai felt as if he could see through the barrier and see his true appearance. The other party did not intend to conceal his identity and the strange energy covering his face gradually dissipated, revealing a handsome face. "Lu Yi," Yang Kai called out. This guy was none other than Flowing Cloud Valley's young master, Lu Yi, who had made things difficult for him several times and even tried to kill him. The first time Yang Kai had come into contact with him was when the Flowing Flame sand field opened. During the fight for the red candle fruit, Lu Yi had secretly tried to kill Yang Kai. Yang Kai had fought with him for a while, and as a result, Lu Yi had managed to cut off one of Yang Kai's arms, allowing him to escape. Later, during the Battle of Dragon Cave Mountain, Yang Kai had learned that Lu Yi was behind the Xie family. It was Lu Yi who instigated Xie Li and the others to attack Dragon Cave Mountain. Yang Kai did not know what kind of hatred there was between him and Lu Yi that caused him to be so concerned about him. In the past, Yang Kai thought that Lu Yi simply hated him, but now, Yang Kai's mind suddenly flashed as he connected all the clues together and came up with a bold conjecture. Perhaps I shouldn't call you Lu Yi. After all, this is just your body after possessing it. Yang Kai's mouth curled slightly, his expression confident. Lu Yi, who was sitting in his chair, was stunned for a moment, as if some secret had been revealed. Staring at Yang Kai in surprise, he muttered, "You actually guessed it. It seems this seat has underestimated you. Is that so?" Yang Kai chuckled. "You and I first met in Liu Yang's soul cleansing soul. I obtained an origin essence crystal from there, and from then on, you never forgot about me. So, that origin essence crystal is yours." Lu Yuan's handsome and peaceful face suddenly turned ferocious, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. Yang Kai, where did you take it? Why has this master been unable to sense its aura all this time? This matter was simply a nightmare for Lu Yi. If Yang Kai had not taken away the origin essence crystal, he would have been able to completely refine it. After seizing this body, Yang Kai only needed to fuse with his own origin essence crystal to restore at least half of his strength in an instant. Even if the world principles of Shadowed Star suppressed him from breaking through to the Origin King realm on the spot, leaving Shadowed Star with a peak origin returning realm cultivation wasn't a big problem for him. As long as he could find a place to retreat for a few dozen years, restoring his original cultivation would not be a dream. At that time, the entire territory of Shadowed Star would be his. But all of this was ruined by Yang Kai. Lu Yi could not even sense the existence of his origin essence crystal, let alone retrieve it. That was the crystallization and essence of his cultivation. Without it, with Lu Yi's current aptitude, restoring his strength would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After so many years, he had only managed to reach the third-order origin returning realm. This was simply unbearable. "Sorry, I've already fused with that thing." Yang Kai smiled and pointed to his head. "Impossible." Lu Yi denied immediately, as if he was looking at an ant, turning a contemptuous look towards Yang Kai and sneered, "With your strength, you want to fuse with my origin essence crystal?" The soul that possessed Lu Yi's body was an existence on the same level as the great emperors of Starfield when he was alive, so the origin essence crystal he left behind was naturally of extremely high grade. Even if an Origin King Realm Master tried to fuse with it rashly, their knowledge sea would burst and their soul would be destroyed. Yang Kai only had the cultivation of a first-order origin returning realm at that time, so how could he have fused with it? Lu Yi obviously did not believe this kind of nonsense and only thought that Yang Kai was lying and had used some special method to hide the origin essence crystal, making it impossible for him to sense it. "Believe it or not, it's up to you." Yang Kai shrugged indifferently. Of course, he had no obligation or need to explain clearly to the other party. With a supreme treasure like the soul-warming lotus, fusing with the origin essence crystal root didn't require him to do anything. Even he didn't know that this crystal root was an origin essence crystal until a long time later. "Enough nonsense, since you've come here today, don't even think about leaving. Where is this origin essence crystal? As long as I capture you, do you think I won't have a chance to ask?" Lu Yi coldly snorted, his aura suddenly becoming violent and evil. Yang Kai laughed, "You're about to die, yet you're still boasting shamelessly." Lu Yi heard this and couldn't help being startled. The next moment, the entire corpse cave suddenly began to shake as an extremely fierce aura suddenly descended from above. This aura was so strong that Lu Yi felt as if he had been imprisoned, unable to move, only able to stand in place with an ugly expression on his face. Hong long long. The earth seemed to crack open as a huge rumbling sound spread from above. A moment later, a hole appeared above the palace where Yang Kai and Lu Yi were standing, and a figure leapt out from it and sent a palm towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi's face changed drastically as he madly pushed his shi, trying to escape from this overwhelming momentum. But in front of this palm, everything he did was in vain. His shi was easily shattered and the palm fell. Lu Yi only had time to let out a pitiful cry before his entire body was crushed into a puddle of flesh and blood. Qian Tong landed, a look of suspicion on his face as he exchanged a glance with Yang Kai. Yang Kai also wore a stunned expression. Neither of them had expected that Lu Yi would be killed so easily. Is that the religion master of corpse spirit religion? Qian Tong asked in amazement. Yang Kai nodded. Yes, that's him. This old master overestimated him. Qian Tong coldly snorted. Although he had never put this religion master of corpse spirit religion in his eyes, he hadn't expected the other party to be killed so easily, making him feel like he had punched cotton. Yang Kai didn't say anything, but there was a strange feeling in his heart. Subconsciously, he felt that Lu Yi couldn't have died so easily. After all, he had escaped from Yang Yun's hands in the past and hadn't even noticed Yang Yun. Even if Qian Tong was an Origin King Realm Master, how could he compare to this guy in terms of cunning? Considering all this, Yang Kai was shocked and quickly released his divine sense, spreading it outwards frantically. Under the perception of his divine sense, the situation in Grand Burial Valley became clear to him in an instant. Suddenly, he noticed a strand of obscure aura that was fleeing towards the outside at an unbelievable speed, and it was concealed to the extreme. If it wasn't for him arousing suspicion in his heart and intentionally searching for it, he would probably really be unable to notice it. As this aura escaped, it carried with it a slight fluctuation of space principles. Elder Qian. Yang Kai let out a low shout as he suddenly thrust his hands forward and stabbed them into the void. Then, he tore them apart and a void crack immediately formed. Qian Tong frowned. Although he didn't understand why Yang Kai was doing this, he still chose to believe him subconsciously and without even asking, directly entered the void crack with Yang Kai. Outside Grand Burial Valley, a corpse general in black robes was meditating in a secluded location. He seemed to have been sitting here for a long time without making any movements. At a certain moment, this black-robed corpse general suddenly trembled and his hidden aura climbed all the way to the peak of the third-order origin returning realm, not much worse than Yi Shiyun. Slowly opening his eyes, a look of resentment and shock flashed across his pupils as he ground his teeth and roared, "An Origin King, an Origin King. How could there be an Origin King here? Old dog, this king will remember you. This king will definitely repay you for that palm strike. You won't have the chance." A familiar voice suddenly called out from behind him. The black-robed corpse general was shocked and quickly turned around, only to see a void crack open silently and Yang Kai and Qian Tong step out from it. The black-robed corpse general was shocked and without even thinking about it, he immediately roared and tried to escape. "Where do you think you're going?" Qian Tong shouted angrily, his territory suddenly expanding and wrapping around the black-robed corpse general. Yang Kai didn't take action and instead just stared at the black-robed corpse general while pushing his divine sense to the limit to pay attention to his movements. The black-robed corpse general Yang Kai had seen him before and should have been brother to the white-robed corpse general Kang Fei Rao, but at this moment, he had been occupied by Lu Yi's soul and had become a completely different person. Although the peak of the origin returning realm was powerful, in front of Qian Tong, it was nothing. The moment the black-robed corpse general's body was pulverized and his soul extinguished, Yang Kai noticed a hidden aura leaping through space, directly leaving this place and arriving a few hundred kilometers away without pausing for a single moment. This was obviously the aura of corpse spirit religion's religion master. If Yang Kai wasn't proficient in the Tao of space, it would have been impossible for him to detect such a change. After Qian Tong killed the black-robed corpse general, he turned his head and looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't say a word and simply tore space again, the next moment appearing several hundred kilometers away. As soon as they emerged from the void crack, Yang Kai and Qian Tong saw a corpse general in blue robes frantically fleeing into the distance. Without waiting for Qian Tong to act, Yang Kai summoned a dozen golden blood threads, which intertwined together to form a golden arrow that pierced through space and pierced a hole in the abdomen of the azure-robed corpse general, shattering his corpse bead. The golden blood threads circled outside before flying back, but Yang Kai didn't show any joy after killing a powerful enemy. Instead, his expression became gloomy as he tore space a third time. Chapter 1693. 5 days later, Yang Kai and Qian Tong looked at the corpse in front of them with ugly expressions. This corpse did not belong to the corpse spirit clan. Instead, it belonged to a human cultivator. His cultivation level was not high, and he was only at the first order origin returning realm. However, this was the 27th body possessed by the mysterious corpse spirit cult leader. He didn't seem to have damaged his spirit due to possession. On the contrary, he could possess an unlimited number of different bodies. This was completely contrary to Yang Kai's common sense. When a powerhouse's physical body was destroyed, their divine soul could indeed find a suitable body to seize, but seizing was a very dangerous matter. It was very likely that the divine soul would suffer a backlash and be swallowed by the target of the seizing, leading to the destruction of the divine soul. Even if the divine soul was not swallowed, every seizing would consume a great deal of soul force. It was impossible for anyone to perform a second possession in such a short period of time. However, the mysterious cult leader of corpse spirit religion had broken this rule. In just 5 days, he had attempted to possess 27 bodies. Although Yang Kai had caught him by the tail each time, pursued him relentlessly, and even killed the bodies he possessed, he had always been able to escape with his soul. After 5 days of pursuit, they failed to kill the cult leader of the corpse spirit religion. Both Yang Kai and Qian Tong realized how tricky this enemy was. However, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. They discovered that the cult master of corpse spirit religion couldn't possess anyone's body. Only those who had the 10,000 poison evil GU planted in their minds could become his targets. Yang Kai had come into contact with 10,000 poison evil GU once. Back then, Xie Li of the Xie family had been controlled by this 10,000 poison evil GU and had foolishly launched an attack on Dragon Cave Mountain with his entire family. In the end, he died without a complete corpse. This kind of strange insect-like existence was the cult master of the corpse spirit religion's unique secret technique. Once the 10,000 poison evil GU was implanted in someone's body, any living creature would have to obey his orders. He had also used this method to enslave his rebellious subordinates, and he had even used this method to carry out possession and escape with his soul. As long as there was a 10,000 poisons evil insect within a certain distance, his divine soul could instantly arrive at the location of the 10,000 poisons evil insect without being restricted by space. In addition to this, Yang Kai and Qian Tong keenly discovered something else. The cult master of the corpse spirit religion chose to possess the body. He was getting weaker and weaker. In the beginning, the body he possessed was still a third-order origin returning realm corpse general, a top-level corpse general, but after 2 days, he could only choose the second-order origin returning realm. Until now, he could only possess beings from the first-order origin returning realm. His possession technique was not flawless, but there was a certain degree of damage, and this damage should be targeted at the divine soul. Even the corpse spirit religion's church master couldn't avoid it. Even so, Yang Kai and Qian Tong were mentally and physically exhausted. Come again, he won't be able to jump around for long. This old master doesn't believe he can escape from this old master's grasp. Qian Tong was also annoyed. He was now an Origin King Realm Master, the #1 master on Shadowed Star, but now he couldn't even deal with the cult master of corpse spirit religion. This made him very angry. What Qian Tong did not know was that the origin of this cult master of corpse spirit religion was much greater than that of an Origin King like him. Have you caught his movements? Qian Tong turned to look at Yang Kai. After a few days of pursuit, Qian Tong also learned about the strangeness of the cult master of corpse spirit religion. If not for Yang Kai tracking him, he would not have been able to eliminate this cult master on his own. He could not detect any trace of the cult master's soul escaping at all. Yang Kai closed his eyes and sensed for a while before suddenly opening them and stretching out his hands to tear the void without saying a word. In a certain jungle, a handsome young man was fleeing in distress. This young man looked to be in his 30s and his body was pulsing with first-order origin returning realm Saint Chi fluctuations. His appearance was quite distressed as his eyes were red and his face was filled with malevolence. While fleeing, this young man restrained his aura and released his divine sense to scan his surroundings. There was no movement within a 30-kilometer radius of him. However, the handsome young man did not relax his vigilance because of this. On the contrary, he continued to flee, as if something terrible was chasing him. His face was filled with ruthlessness and his eyes were filled with unforgettable hatred. In the past, even in that place, he was a famous existence and there were not many people who dared to provoke him, but since he came to this star field and fell on this cultivation star, over the past 10,000 years, his luck had become worse and worse. First, he was smashed to pieces by Yang, and after 10,000 years of slumber, he was finally able to recover. Today, at this moment, he was being chased by a piece of third-order origin returning realm trash. If he was at his peak, he could tear this piece of trash into 10,000 pieces with a single glance, but now, he had no choice but to flee. The handsome young man suddenly felt a sense of grief and indignation, like a tiger being bullied by a dog, or a dragon being toyed with by a shrimp in shallow water, causing his blood to boil and his breathing to become difficult. His soul escape technique was so exquisite that even an origin king would not be able to detect him, but this little brat named Yang Kai actually cultivated a rare space secret technique. If not for this, how could he have been caught every time? Even in that place, very few people could cultivate the space secret technique. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't understand how someone could cultivate the space secret technique to such a high level in such a place. They could even tear space and instantly travel thousands of miles. Just as his thoughts were running wild and he was gnashing his teeth, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly came from the void in front of him. The handsome young man's footsteps paused as his face turned pale. This situation had occurred dozens of times already, so he was no stranger to it and knew what would happen next. "You forced me to do this." The handsome young man's eyes flashed viciously as if he had made an important decision. He stopped and stood in place, waiting quietly. The strange energy fluctuations coming from the void in front of him became more and more obvious, and soon, a crack suddenly appeared. Inside this crack was a dark and chaotic void. Two figures walked out of this crack, the one in front being Qian Tong while Yang Kai followed behind. As soon as Qian Tong appeared, his powerful soul immediately locked onto the position of the handsome young man. Without even saying a word, he expanded his territory domain and wrapped it around the handsome young man. His wind concept filled the air and condensed into a variety of killing moves within his territory domain that shot towards the handsome young man. The other party's cultivation after possessing this body was now only at the first-order origin returning realm, so Qian Tong did not even need to take action. Just by relying on the power of his territory domain, he could easily kill him. The handsome and evil young man laughed out loud. "Lowly ant, bear the supreme fury of this seat." As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his mouth and spat out a turquoise aura. The turquoise aura twisted slightly in the void and suddenly turned into a turquoise long saber. There were complex runes and patterns on the long saber, making people feel dizzy just by looking at it. The turquoise long saber slashed down viciously in mid-air without making a sound. But a shocking scene appeared. Qian Tong's territory domain was directly cut open by this saber and instantly collapsed. At the same time, Qian Tong and Yang Kai's expressions changed greatly. In their vision, the turquoise long saber rolled up a mysterious concept and broke through the seal of their soul. It directly descended into their knowledge sea, transforming into the appearance of a turquoise long saber and slashing down with the force of a thunderbolt. The knowledge sea was cut open by the fierce chi, and the entire sea was divided into two. In the knowledge sea, waves surged in an instant, a strong wind blew, and the sky changed color. The space in the knowledge sea was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yang Kai and Qian Tong's soul power was directly cut off by more than a third. Both of them couldn't help but groan as they had a splitting headache. Their vision blurred and they almost fainted. Both of their expressions changed greatly. They didn't expect the other party to have such a tyrannical move. They hurriedly circulated their Saint Chi to protect themselves. After the handsome young man displayed that move, his face turned pale and his whole body swayed. He wanted to take advantage of the situation and attack Yang Kai and Qian Tong again, but he was powerless. Cursing fiercely, the handsome young man's body suddenly burst into powder and disappeared. At the same time, a soul power rushed out from the handsome young man's original position. It made a turn in the air and swept up the turquoise chi that could transform into a long saber. It then cut through the void and fled far away. Yang Kai stared in the direction of his escape. He wanted to sense it, but the surrounding area was filled with a strange concept. It seemed to have sealed off this part of the world, making it impossible for him to track the other party's movements. Once again, there was a piercing pain in his mind. Yang Kai couldn't help but howl. He hurriedly took out a jade bottle and poured out some spirit pills. He gave half to Qian Tong and stuffed the other half into his mouth. He then sat down cross-legged. Seeing this, Qian Tong also hurriedly took a spirit pill and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. After a full day, Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes. There was still some lingering fear in his eyes. He had a supreme treasure like the 7-colored soul-warming lotus, so even if his soul was damaged, it didn't matter much. After a day of nourishment, he had almost fully recovered. On the other hand, Qian Tong seemed to have suffered quite a bit of damage. Even if he was an origin king, it would take at least a year or so for him to recover from such a blow. Seemingly aware of Yang Kai's gaze, Qian Tong also opened his eyes, his face slightly pale. After a long silence, he asked, "Did that guy run away?" Yang Kai nodded silently. Qian Tong sighed heavily and said, "That guy is incredible. This old master was invincible on Shadowed Star after breaking through to the Origin King realm, but I never expected to suffer such a big loss at his hands. The world is so big, and there are so many capable people. What kind of artifact did he use? How could it be so powerful?" Yang Kai pondered for a moment before saying, "Probably an emperor artifact." An emperor artifact? Qian Tong frowned as he sensed his surroundings thoughtfully before nodding. That makes sense. There is indeed an emperor pressure around here, but why is it different from the emperor pressure I felt in the emperor garden before? Yang Kai glanced at him, thinking that there were more than one great emperors in this world, but he didn't say anything. It was this emperor pressure that had isolated Yang Kai's space secret technique, allowing Corpse Spirit Religion's religion master to escape. Chapter 1694. After losing track of Corpse Spirit Religion's religion master, with his methods, it would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens to find him again. This time's operation was not a success, but in the short term, Corpse Spirit Religion's religion master would not take action again. After all, he had consumed a lot of energy, especially when he used his Emperor artifact at the end. It was definitely a heavy burden on his body, otherwise, he would not have waited until now to use it. Qian Tong obviously knew this, so he did not have any intention of asking Yang Kai to pursue, instead saying, "Although that person escaped, Corpse Spirit Religion is still a big problem. Let's return to Grand Burial Valley first and destroy that corpse cave." This old master felt that many corpse spirit race clansmen were hibernating their last time. That's what I was thinking, Yang Kai agreed. After a brief discussion, the two of them immediately set off in the direction of the Grand Burial Valley. 3 days later, the two returned to Grand Burial Valley. The corpse spirit race in the valley had been slaughtered by Qian Tong and had suffered heavy losses, but they had not been completely wiped out. The remaining corpse spirit race clansmen were now hiding somewhere, leaving only those who had not yet fully transformed in the corpse cave. Before Qian Tong destroyed the corpse cave, Yang Kai returned to the location of the underworld well again to see if there was a way to destroy it. After all, this was the source of the corpse spirit race. As long as it was destroyed, the corpse spirit race would no longer be able to grow in numbers, and the remaining survivors would need to be slowly cleaned up. One day, Shadowed Star would return to peace again. However, to his disappointment, there was no way to destroy this underworld well. The yellow spring eye seemed to be connected to another world. The dense yin corpse chi was flowing from that world, converging into the spring water form in the yellow spring eye. It was rumored that the underworld well was connected to the underworld. The only way to destroy this bridge was to go deep inside and destroy it. Yang Kai did not dare to take this risk and could only join forces with Qian Tong to temporarily seal the aura of the underworld well before destroying the corpse cave and killing the corpse spirit race clansmen who were still in the process of being transformed. By the time Yang Kai and Qian Tong returned to High Heaven Sect, 10 days had passed. After that, Yang Kai briefly explained the operation to Yi Shiyun and the others. Yi Shiyun was also shocked. He had never thought that there would be such a strange method of unlimited possession in this world. The rest of the elders sighed as well. According to what Sect Master said, doesn't that mean Corpse Spirit Religion Master has an immortal body? Yi Shiyun frowned. That's not the case. Although his possession technique is strange and unpredictable, it will definitely cause some damage to his body. This could be seen from the changes in the target of his possession. But this time, he managed to escape. Now that we don't know where he is hiding, it will be difficult to find him. Yang Kai sighed. Yi Shiyun nodded lightly. Although we failed to kill Corpse Spirit Religion Master, being able to seal the underworld spring well is enough. Presumably, the Corpse Spirit race would not increase their numbers. It's time for us to strike back. Yang Kai glanced at her and smiled lightly. What does Great Elder think? Pursue the victory. Yi Shiyun quickly said, the reason why Shadowed Star's situation has been getting worse and worse over the past 2 years is partly because the corpse spirit race is too strange and is constantly transforming into more and more masters. Another reason is that there is no one who can trust to lead them. All the great sects and great forces are fighting on their own, making it easy for them to be defeated one by one. But now, things are different. The Origin King Grade Starship, Sect Master has returned, and Elder Qian has also broken through to the Origin King realm. As long as the two of you stand up, with the reputation of High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall, I believe you can unite all of Shadowed Star. This old master has no problem with that. Shadowed Star is this old master's homeland, so Shadowed Star's contribution is naturally unshirkable, Qian Tong immediately stated. Yi Shiyun turned her eyes to Yang Kai. I also have no problem with that. Yang Kai chuckled. Great Elder and Elder Qian will be responsible for this matter. Everything in the sect can be mobilized, I'll be the one to contribute. Since Sect Master wants to slack off, then as you wish, this matter is settled. Yi Shiyun was also a decisive person and immediately made the decision. Next, the elders and Qian Tong discussed specific matters, including how to unite the remaining masters and forces of Shadowed Star, how to establish prestige, and how to eliminate Corpse Spirit Religion. In fact, everything was quite simple. High Heaven Sect's prestige was not low, and now that Qian Tong was personally taking action, with his Origin King realm cultivation and identity, all he needed to do was raise his hand and there would be many who would respond. With the combined strength of the two sects, coupled with the Origin King Grade Starship, it would not be difficult to rescue the masters and sects that were being harassed by Corpse Spirit Religion. When the time came, this force would snowball, and when it swept across all of Shadowed Star, Corpse Spirit Religion would no longer exist. Yi Shiyun even made preparations to send out a message to inform all of Shadowed Star that the mysterious religion master of Corpse Spirit Religion had been killed by Yang Kai and Qian Tong. Although this was false news, no one would doubt it, and Corpse Spirit Religion's religion master was currently busy hiding, so naturally, he would not stand up and question this. This news would greatly impact the confidence of the Corpse Spirit race and the human race cultivator who had surrendered to Corpse Spirit Religion, which would be of great help to the upcoming operation. Yang Kai did not participate in this and instead went to Yang Yun's loft alone. As you said, that person really is the Insect Emperor. Inside Yang Yun's knowledge sea, she sat face to face with Yang Kai, a thoughtful look on her face. 10,000 poison evil insects were one of the Insect Emperor's secret techniques, and the soul-splitting saber was his artifact. I never expected that he would actually survive the battle back then. This is my negligence. So that person was called the Insect Emperor. Yang Kai suddenly realized. He was best at controlling and cultivating exotic insects. He could place his soul on the creatures he cultivated, which was why he was able to carry out so many seizing attempts. The 10,000 poison evil insects were just one of the exotic insects under his control, so they were nothing special. They were only useful for controlling his subordinates, but he also had many other powerful means at his disposal. Wherever the Insect Emperor's insect cloud passed, he could destroy an entire star territory. Yang Kai's face was horrified. He noticed that Yang Yun was talking about an entire star territory, not a single cultivation star. Yang Yun pursed her lips and smiled. You don't have to be so nervous. To control exotic insects, one must have the corresponding cultivation. Right now, he can only possess a first-order origin returning realm cultivator, so how could he control too many exotic insects? If he really did that, he would definitely suffer a backlash. Being able to use the 10,000 poison evil insects was already beyond my expectations. Trust me, he won't show his face again for the next few years. But as long as this person is alive, he will always be a disaster. Yang Kai frowned. He was deeply wary of the Insect Emperor. That was an existence on the same level as Yang Yun. Who knew how strong he was? Yang Yun looked at him deeply. I have a way for you to kill him. What way? Yang Kai looked up at her. Yang Yun didn't speak, instead reaching out and grasping at the void. In her knowledge sea, a beautiful ball of light emitting a colorful light was suddenly caught in her hand and immediately pressed her palm against Yang Kai's forehead. Her movements were neither fast nor slow, seemingly casual, but Yang Kai didn't react until the ball of light in Yang Yun's hand suddenly disappeared into his soul avatar. Yang Kai was shocked. What is this? Yang Yun pursed her lips and smiled. You'll know when you refine it. As soon as these words fell, Yang Kai felt a wild aura suddenly explode in his soul avatar. The strength of this aura made him unable to resist. His soul avatar directly collapsed and his divine sense returned to his body. The next moment, Yang Kai opened his eyes, but instead of seeing the scenery in the loft, he found himself in an empty and chaotic space. There was no light or anything around him. He couldn't even sense his own existence. Yang Kai was slightly surprised, not knowing where he was, but after all, he was someone who had braved many storms and waves, so he didn't panic and just quietly observed his surroundings. This empty world gradually had a trace of obscure existences, and as time passed, these things condensed together and grew larger and larger. After an unknown amount of time, a huge star appeared in Yang Kai's field of vision. This star was completely devoid of vitality. Not even a single plant could be seen, it was simply a dead star. Yang Kai looked at this huge star and faintly felt that it was somewhat familiar. Shadowed star. Yang Kai suddenly realized. When he observed Shadowed Star from the star field, it was exactly this size and appearance, but the current Shadowed Star was filled with vitality, unlike what he saw in front of him. I understand. It wasn't until this moment that Yang Kai understood what Yang inflammation had done to him, and while feeling grateful, he was unwilling to give up this rare opportunity and quickly calmed down to comprehend it. In this strange world, Yang Kai Jen was unable to perceive the passage of time. It seemed like an instant, but it also seemed like hundreds of millions of years. Finally, some vitality appeared on the desolate Shadowed Star. The sea rose and fell, the plants were lush, and some creatures with flesh and blood began to appear. Different races rose up one after another, sweeping up waves in the long river of history before disappearing. Different civilizations, one seemingly immortal period after another, passed by under Yang Kai's indifferent gaze. He felt the auras from the wild and ancient times, and even though he was just observing, he felt as if he had become one with these stars, spending hundreds of millions of years with them. He witnessed the birth, development, peak, and trough of these stars with his own eyes. He gradually developed a strange feeling that he was this stars, and this stars was him. The Star Master. Only a Star Master could have such a feeling. When Xia Ningchang was refining Tongxian Realm Star's source, Yang Kai assisted him and accompanied Xia Ningchang to observe the evolution and development of Tongxian Realm. How similar was it to what he was seeing now? This was clearly the process of refining Star's source and becoming a Star Master. Chapter 1695. Yang Kai opened his eyes as a wonderful feeling welled up in his heart. All of Shadowed Star seemed to have become a part of his body, allowing him to perceive any piece of land on Shadowed Star at will. He could perceive the richness and barrenness of this cultivation star, as well as the birth, aging, sickness, and death of the people who lived on this cultivation star. If he wanted to, he could easily travel to any place on Shadowed Star without the slightest hindrance. If he wanted to, he could cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to collapse with a single thought. Clenching his fist lightly, Yang Kai caused the world energy in the surrounding area to tremble slightly as a loud bell rang out from the void. At this moment, the hundreds of millions of living beings on Shadowed Star were shocked as they looked up, not knowing what was happening. All of Shadowed Star also underwent a subtle change the moment Yang Kai became the Star Master. This change was inexplicable and only a few masters were able to sense it, while most others were unaware of it. From now on, Shadowed Star would be closely related to Yang Kai. As Yang Kai's cultivation rose, the vitality of all of Shadowed Star would also become more and more vibrant. Yang Kai inspected his body and found that inside Dantian, there was a small sphere that looked like a shrunken version of Shadowed Star that was rotating at a subtle speed. Star's source. If one wanted to become the Star Master of a cultivation star, they had to refine the source of that cultivation star, and what Yang had injected into his body before was undoubtedly Shadowed Star's source. Shadowed Star, which had shrunk countless times, was constantly rotating. Every time Shadowed Star rotated, it would release a mysterious and subtle force that nourished Yang Kai's body while also absorbing Yang Kai's strength to strengthen itself. This was a mutually beneficial process. While Yang Kai was excited and happy, there was also a trace of suspicion on his face. Did I just become the Star Master of Shadowed Star? Did I just become the ruler of this world? He couldn't help but have a surreal feeling. Little senior sister being able to become the Star Master of Tongxian Realm was a stroke of luck. Tongxian Realm's world energy was barren, like an old man on the verge of death struggling to survive. That was why Tongxian Realm's Star's source had taken the initiative to seek out Xia Ningchang. Let her refine it. However, Shadowed Star was different. Even if there was the suppression of world principles here, making it impossible for a cultivator to comprehend the mysteries of the Origin King Realm, it was still a vibrant cultivation star. If Tongxian Realm was an old man with one foot in the grave, Shadowed Star was a young man full of vitality. To refine the source of such a cultivation star, without an Origin King Realm cultivation, it was impossible, and one had to be a third-order Origin King. For example, Luo Hai had become a Star Master while still a second-order Origin King. In the entire Star territory, there was only one such family. Seemingly understanding Yang Kai's doubts, Yang's voice passed into his knowledge sea. Shadowed Star's source has been imprisoned by me for tens of thousands of years. Now that it has a chance to escape my control, do you think it will obediently cooperate? Yang Kai was stunned. Yang chuckled, don't worry, its temper has long been smoothed out. It wasn't so docile in the past, which is why I imprisoned it. Yang Kai smiled bitterly as he understood the whole story. Anyone who had been imprisoned for tens of thousands of years would not have a temper. Although the star's source did not have its own sentience, it knew that it could not resist Yang's methods and could only compromise. The position of Star Master had come so easily and simply that Yang Kai was still somewhat unable to adapt. With a thought, Yang Kai expanded his divine sense, sending it out in all directions like a tide of spiders, soon covering most of Shadowed Star. Yang Kai noticed the movements of many battles, as if he was witnessing them with his own eyes. However, the spiritual energy in his knowledge sea was decreasing at a terrifying rate. After Yang Kai took back his divine sense, he found that in just 5 breaths, his knowledge sea had been reduced by a third. In other words, he could only monitor Shadowed Star for 15 breaths before his knowledge sea would completely dry up, and he would not be able to monitor it completely. Calculating this, Yang Kai was not dumbfounded. Although he was only a third-order Origin returning realm cultivator, the power of his soul was comparable to an Origin King, and with the 7-colored soul-warming lotus, it was impossible for his knowledge sea to dry up under normal circumstances. It seemed that even if he became a Star Master, without the corresponding strength, he would not be able to act as he pleased. However, this was enough for now. I'm going to deal with some small troubles, I'll come see you later, Yang Kai said, but before Yang Yang could reply, his figure flickered and disappeared. Somewhere 100,000 kilometers away from High Heaven Sect, a group of corpse spirit religion disciples were fiercely counterattacking while a group of human cultivators struggled to resist. Since High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall joined forces to issue a call to arms, all of Shadowed Star had set off a wave of resistance against corpse spirit religion. Under the leadership of Yi Shiyun and Chen Tong, corpse spirit religion's army was forced to retreat while countless corpse spirit race clansmen were killed or wounded. Those who had lost their homes and sects spontaneously gathered together and launched an attack on corpse spirit religion, who had occupied their sects. Without the corpse cave to transform their clansmen, the corpse spirit race clansmen that died were one less, and without fresh blood to supplement their numbers, coupled with the rumor that their religion master was dead and their sect leaders slaughtered, corpse spirit religion did not have much strength to resist. The human cultivators were like a hot knife through butter as they slaughtered corpse spirit religion's army. More than 80% of the sects had already recovered their lost territories. On the one hand, they had left enough manpower in their headquarters to prevent corpse spirit religion's counterattack, while on the other hand, they had sent their own masters to reinforce their allies. They were really afraid of corpse spirit religion and knew that if they did not completely destroy it this time, this strange race would eventually rise from the ashes in the future. Most of the families and sects had mustered all their strength and were determined to fight corpse spirit religion to the end. Now, a very common scene on Shadowed Star was playing out in this place. The remaining corpse spirit race clansmen had been hiding here and were accidentally discovered, causing thousands of human cultivators to rush over and besiege them. Although there were less than 1,000 corpse spirit race clansmen here, they were still very difficult to deal with. What's more, corpse spirit race clansmen were transformed from the dead, so they had little fear of pain and their bodies were tough as steel, making them very difficult to kill unless they destroyed their corpse beads. At the same level, a human cultivator was no match for a corpse spirit race clansman. Thousands of human cultivators surrounded the corpse spirit race clansmen in a small mountain valley, but did not dare to launch a fierce attack. They could only selectively eliminate the corpse spirit race clansmen in the periphery, slowly weakening their strength. The corpse spirit race clansmen had obviously discovered their enemy's scheme, so how could they be willing to just sit back and wait for death? They organized several waves of fearless attempts to break out of the encirclement, and although they suffered many casualties, they also took the lives of many human cultivators. For a while, the two sides were in a stalemate. The corpse spirit race clansmen were at the end of their rope, and each one of them was extremely fierce, while the human cultivator was hesitant. Just as the human race masters were at a loss of what to do, a young man suddenly appeared in midair. He had arrived suddenly, without the slightest warning, and by the time everyone noticed his existence, he was already standing there. The young man glanced down at the mountain valley, then raised his palm and gently slapped it down. His movements were very casual, as if he was swatting mosquitoes and flies. However, under this palm, the spirit chi between heaven and earth gathered crazily, converging into a huge palm print that could cover the entire valley. This palm print covered the sky and the earth as it slammed down with lightning speed. Hong Long, the earth shook violently, causing the thousands of human cultivators to almost lose their footing. In the next moment, everyone paled in horror. They clearly saw that under the giant palm of world energy, the thousands of corpse spirit race clansmen that they had been helpless against, regardless of their cultivation, were all smashed into meat paste. Over 90% of them died in an instant, with only a few lucky ones not affected, but their faces were bloodless as they stood trembling in place, looking up in horror. The figure of the young man at this moment was like a god who dominated this world. After that palm print, the young man just flickered slightly and disappeared, as if he had never appeared. However, the huge palm print in the mountain valley and the dead corpse spirit race clansman proved that everything just now was not an illusion but had actually happened. Who is this person? How could he be so strong? The power of his palm is probably no less than that of Shadow Moon Hall's Temple Master Chen, right? I heard that Temple Master Chen is already an Origin King. Could there be a second Origin King on Shadowed Star? No, 5 months ago, this old master had the privilege of witnessing Temple Master Chen's shocking means, but compared to that palm, it seems he is still slightly inferior. How is that possible? Is he even stronger than Temple Master Chen? I don't believe it. Haha, I know who that person is. It's High Heaven Sect's sect master, Yang Kai. I've seen him once before, back when he was still on Dragon Cave Mountain. His High Heaven Sect's sect master? Everyone suddenly realized and immediately felt that the rumors were true. High Heaven Sect being able to become one of the most powerful sects on Shadowed Star was not without reason. With such a powerful sect master, how could the sect not prosper? Enough idle chatter, there are still a few small fries that haven't been cleaned up yet. Sect Master Yang helped us solve the biggest problem, we can't trouble him to come back and slap the rest, right? A group of masters nodded repeatedly before stepping forward, all of them staring maliciously at the few surviving corpse spirit race clansmen as they slowly approach. If I had known earlier, I would have just been slapped to death. Looking at the people gathering around them from all directions, the surviving corpse spirit race clansmen couldn't help thinking. Yang Kai experienced the various conveniences of becoming a Star Master and could not help feeling a little ecstatic. No wonder those third-order origin kings all aimed to refine star sources and become a Star Master. This was simply too convenient. Once one became a Star Master of a cultivation star, they could travel to any place on that cultivation star in an instant. This was much more convenient and faster than using space arrays. Chapter 1696. Moreover, after becoming a Star Master, there were many other benefits that Yang Kai had not had the time to carefully experience and grasp, so he was not clear about them for the time being. However, this alone was enough. Wherever he went, the corpse spirit race had nowhere to run. With just a casual wave of his palm, Yang Kai was able to wipe out groups of corpse spirit race cultivators. Now that he was the master of Shadowed Star, who on Shadowed Star could resist his methods? Even Chen Tong would not be able to resist. In just half a day, Yang Kai had traversed most of Shadowed Star, killing all the corpse spirit race cultivators he could sense. Before the human cultivator could figure out what was going on, Yang Kai had already flown away, leaving these people looking at each other in confusion. On the shores of the limitless ocean, a group of cultivators who had broken away from the human race army were fleeing as a dozen or so corpse spirit race cultivators pursued them relentlessly. The corpse spirit race had not had an easy time in the past year. Their powerful corpse generals had been wiped out one by the masters of Chen Tong and High Heaven Sect, and even their religion master was rumored to have been killed. Without a leader, they could only be suppressed by the united human race, retreating back to the limitless ocean step by step, trying to escape into the vast sea to seek a chance of survival. However, their hopes were dashed as Chen Tong and Yi Shiyun had chased after corpse spirit religion cultivators all the way to this point, blocking their path of retreat, making it impossible for them to enter the limitless ocean. Today, corpse spirit religion was on the decline and was no longer as strong as it was a few years ago. Cornered, the corpse spirit race cultivators could only hunt down lone human cultivator to vent their frustrations and grievances. This group of 7 or 8 human cultivators was quite unlucky as they had encountered the corpse spirit race cultivators who were both stronger and more numerous than they were. In just one battle, they had lost several people and had no choice but to flee in the direction of the human army. The woman leading the group had a face as beautiful as peach blossoms, a seductive figure, and a pair of large breasts that surged fiercely in front of her. However, under the pursuit of the corpse spirit race, her beautiful face paled, and as she fled, she continuously poured her divine sense into the communication artifact in her hand. She hoped to be able to contact her elders. Let the elders come to the rescue. Another scream came from behind. The woman turned around and saw a scene that made her tremble. One of his companions who had fallen behind was caught by a few corpse spirits and was knocked to the ground. Those cruel corpse spirit clansmen didn't intend to kill him directly. Instead, they swarmed forward. It gnawed at his flesh with its sharp teeth. Her companion's screams and cries for help made the woman's legs tremble. A warm current flowed through her lower abdomen. He nearly lost control of his bladder on the spot. After a short while, the voices of his companions gradually faded away. After the corpse spirit race had eaten their fill, They chased after him even more ferociously, getting closer and closer to him. When she thought about how her delicate skin and flesh would become food for the corpse spirit race like her companion, and eventually become a skeleton without any sense of beauty, the woman's beautiful eyes were filled with fear and helplessness. The great panic made her footsteps feel as heavy as lead, and her Saint Chi was unable to circulate properly, making it difficult for her to even move. The corpse spirit clan behind her was getting closer and closer, and she could even smell the thick scent of blood. The woman exclaimed. Right at this moment, her vision blurred as a figure suddenly appeared and stretched out a hand towards her. With a light grab, he pulled her behind him. Then, the young man flicked his fingers, and along with the sound of a few strong winds, the dozen or so corpse spirits that were chasing her all exploded into powder without exception. A disaster was resolved in an instant. The woman stared blankly at the figure in front of her, a feeling of having just survived a disaster rising in her heart as she called out, "Yonkai?" Her voice was still trembling and her face was pale. Obviously, she had not yet recovered from the thrill and excitement she had just experienced. Hearing this woman's name, the other human race cultivator was taken aback for a moment before they all turned to look at Yonkai with excitement. They had naturally heard of Yonkai's name, but very few had actually seen him in person. This time, the sect master of High Heaven sect had personally stepped in to save them, so they were naturally grateful. "Yin Su Dai." Yonkai glanced back at the woman and frowned. "Why are you here? Where is your master?" This little girl was Yin Su Dai of Colored Glass sect. In Colored Glass sect, she was considered one of the best cultivators of the younger generation. Few people could resist her beguiling technique, but facing the corpse spirit race, her beguiling technique was ineffective. With her first order returning realm cultivation, the strength she could display was greatly reduced. Otherwise, she would not have ended up in such a sorry state. Yin Su Dai smiled reluctantly and replied obediently, "Master is in Sea Corner City." Yonkai released his divine sense and soon noticed that a large number of cultivator auras had gathered in a city several tens of thousands of kilometers away. That should be Sea Corner City, a city near the carefree seaside. "Why aren't you with your master? What are you doing out here?" Yonkai asked with some displeasure. Although the human race had won a great victory and the corpse spirit race had almost no place to stand, acting alone was still very dangerous, especially in the carefree seaside. Although Yonkai did not like Yin Su Dai very much, she was now a disciple of High Heaven sect. As the sect master, he could still reprimand her. Yin Su Dai immediately became speechless. Back when Yonkai was still unknown, she had even tried to deal with Yonkai, but things were different now. Yin Su Dai understood better than anyone that the gap between her and Yonkai was now immeasurable. If Yonkai stood atop the clouds, she could only stay on the ground and look up. She had envied Dai Yuan's ugly senior sister countless times, wondering what kind of methods she had used to obtain Yonkai's care. It was precisely because of Yonkai's attitude that her honored master Gong Ao Fu began to like her senior sister more and more, while Yin Su Dai had gradually been neglected in the past year. "Forget it." Yonkai waved his hand, not wanting to dwell on this matter. Turning his head to look at the other cultivator, he found that each of them was a young man. This group of people had obviously been dazzled by Yin Su Dai's beauty and were willing to follow her around. Yonkai was very clear about Yin Su Dai's methods and even found that when some of these people looked at him, their eyes were filled with disgust and vigilance. "I'll send you back to Elder Gong," Yonkai said, waving his hand and wrapping Yin Su Dai in his Saint Chi. What Yonkai didn't expect though was that Yin Su Dai actually took advantage of this opportunity to squeeze herself into his arms, wrapping her arms around his waist like a little bird, her pair of bountiful peaks pressing against his chest without any hesitation. Yonkai shook his head, but did not push her away immediately. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he swept up the other cultivator and with a flicker, they arrived directly in Cape City. Gently patting Yin Su Dai on the shoulder, Yonkai said, "We've arrived." Saying so, without caring about what she thought, he disappeared again. Yin Su Dai looked around and was surprised to find that she had really returned to Cape City. The buildings in the city were so familiar. Her arms were still in a hugging position, causing Yin Su Dai to feel a little lost. Cape City was not very large and was now completely occupied by the human race cultivator. Yang Kai found Yi Shiyun, Chen Tong, and the others in the city and had a good chat with them before learning about the recent situation. Refining the star's source had not taken Yang Kai much time, but now it had taken him more than a year. During this year, High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall joined forces to uproot Corpse Spirit religion. The remaining Corpse Spirit race clansmen wanted to escape into the limitless ocean, but they were blocked and could only hide in a mountain range 30,000 meters away from Cape City. Chen Tong went out to kill a group of these Corpse Spirit race clansmen every now and then, but some of them had hidden so deeply that even Chen Tong had no way to find them all, giving him a headache. Peace had been restored to the entire Shadowed Star base. About 80% of the remaining Corpse Spirit race clansmen were hiding in the mountain range, so as long as these Corpse Spirit race clansmen were wiped out, the remaining ones would be nothing to fear. At that time, there would be no need for High Heaven Sect or Shadow Moon Hall to act, just the strength of these sects would be enough to wipe out the remaining Corpse Spirit race clansmen. Is that so? After Yang Kai inquired about the situation, he grinned. I'll go. You have a way. Chen Tong looked at him in surprise. During this meeting, Chen Tong felt that Yang Kai had undergone some changes, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what. In his perception, Yang Kai was still a third-order origin returning realm cultivator, and although his aura had become more vigorous, he still gave Chen Tong a sense of danger. It was like if he were to fight with Yang Kai, he would definitely die. Thinking of this, Chen Tong couldn't help feeling suspicious, unable to figure out what was going on. You'll know when the time comes, Yang Kai smiled lightly, not boasting too much. I'll go with you, Chen Tong quickly said. Yang Kai nodded, stood up, and suddenly said to Yi Shiyun, disperse the people gathered in Cape City. After a few years of turmoil, their sects need to recuperate, it's not good to waste time here. Yi Shiyun was startled for a moment, but quickly nodded and agreed. Yang Kai had already reached out and grabbed Chen Tong's arm, and in the next moment, the two of them disappeared from under Yi Shiyun's nose. Even someone as strong as Yi Shiyun was unable to detect any trace of them. Yi Shiyun's expression changed a few times before she suddenly pursed her lips and smiled, so that's how it is. She obviously understood something. After a moment of contemplation, she took out her communication artifact, poured her divine sense into it, and issued an order. A short time later, the human race cultivator gathered in Cape City received an order from High Heaven Sect. The Corpse Spirit race army had been completely wiped out, all sects should return to their headquarters and recuperate. The cultivator from the various sects who received this order looked at each other and ran around to inquire, but the final result was no different from the order. The elders of Shadow Moon Hall and High Heaven Sect all confirmed this. Although they didn't know why the Corpse Spirit race had suddenly been wiped out, the human race cultivator was still overjoyed that the catastrophe on Shadowed Star had been resolved. Out of their trust in High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall, they all returned to their headquarters and discussed how to revive their sects. Chapter 1697. Revitalizing a sect was a major event that may take decades or even centuries of effort, but the most urgent task at hand was to establish a good relationship with High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall so that they could follow these two forces' lead in the future. In this catastrophe, High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall rapidly accumulated prestige that far surpassed that of Heaven Battling Union, Thunder Typhoon Sect, and Star Emperor Mountain. These two forces had become the most powerful representatives of Shadowed Star. It could be said that the catastrophe of Corpse Spirit religion had indirectly contributed to the rapid rise of High Heaven Sect and Shadow Moon Hall. In front of Cape Mountain Range, a light flashed and Chen Tong and Yang Kai appeared side by side. Chen Tong glanced sideways at Yang Kai, almost speechless with shock. He was now an Origin King, one step higher than Yang Kai in terms of cultivation, but he still could not figure out how Yang Kai had brought him here. This was definitely not a simple space secret technique. After thinking about it for a moment, Chen Tong suddenly made a shocking guess. You refined Shadowed Star's source and became its Star Master? Only by becoming a Star Master could Yang Kai bring him here from Cape City in an instant without him noticing. Thinking about the subtle changes he had felt some time ago, Qian Tong was almost certain his guess was correct. Haha, Elder Qian has good eyesight, I have indeed refined Shadowed Star's source. Yang Kai did not deny it. In any case, this kind of thing could not be concealed, and Qian Tong was not an outsider. Qian Tong was stunned for a moment before sighing with a strange expression. I didn't expect that you would actually walk ahead of this old master. Youth is truly fearsome. He looked both happy and discouraged for Yang Kai. It's just luck. Yang Kai naturally would not be complacent. Him being able to refine the star's source was entirely due to yang inflammation. Otherwise, he would have needed to cultivate to the third-order origin king realm before attempting such a feat. Shadowed Star's source had been imprisoned by yang inflammation in his knowledge sea for tens of thousands of years and was no longer willing to be left alone. With Yang Kai's acceptance, it was naturally very obedient to Yang Kai. This was indeed luck. Since that's the case, then this old master doesn't need to act. The next step is up to you. Qian Tong chuckled and quickly returned to normal, not showing any envy or jealousy, instead taking the initiative to take a step back. They watched quietly. Yang Kai didn't speak any nonsense. Spreading his divine sense. Sea of Heaven hand, Yang Kai could only Yang Kai could Yang Kai could Yang Kai's heaven's will. Yang Kai's heaven hand slowly rose. Following his movement, the entire Cape Mountain range began to shake. Intense sounds came from the depths of the mountain range, like the sound of war drums being beaten underground. That sound spread to every corner of the Cape Mountain range. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the entire mountain range, which stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, rose up at a subtle speed. Qian Tong sucked in a breath of cold air, his heart filled with yearning and desire. This was the might of a Star Master. With a single thought, he could transform the world, move mountains, and add to the sea. Moreover, this was a method Yang Kai used without destroying the mountain range, otherwise, he could have flattened it directly. Even if Yang Kai tried his best, he would not be able to accomplish such a feat. The anomaly in the Cape Mountain range obviously alarmed the corpse spirit race hiding inside. Countless corpse spirit race clansmen flew out, wanting to investigate the situation, but soon, they were shocked to discover that the entire Cape Mountain range was imprisoned by an invisible force, making it impossible for them to fly or escape from their hiding place. The place they used to hide and survive had now become a cage. The corpse spirit race clansmen cried out in panic, not knowing what was happening. After a dozen or so breaths of time, the Cape Mountain range had risen a few meters. Yang Kai let out a light breath as he suddenly pressed his hand back down. Hong Long, the mountain range, which stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, fell down again. The earth shook violently and a burst of explosive sounds came from inside the mountain range. At this moment, the world energy seemed to have turned into sharp blades, wreaking havoc inside the bodies of the corpse spirit race clansmen. Peng 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 peng. One after another, the corpse spirit race clansmen burst into dust and disappeared. After the sound subsided, Yang Kai released his divine sense again and found that there were no longer any traces of the corpse spirit race clansmen in the Cape Mountain range. The thousands of corpse spirit race clansmen who had fled here had all been killed without exception. Qian Tong watched in amazement for a long time before letting out a sigh of relief. This catastrophe should end here. After killing corpse spirit religion's religion master, I can be completely at ease. Yang Kai smiled lightly. I'll have to trouble you with this matter. This old master is now. After you kill him, this old master will tell you more about it. There's no need to rush. Qian Tong obviously had something he wanted to say, but since he didn't want to talk about it now, Yang Kai naturally wouldn't force him. The two soon separated, Qian Tong returning to Shadow Moon Hall to preside over the reconstruction of his sect while Yang Kai went straight to the limitless ocean. He was going to find the Insect Emperor and make him disappear from this world completely. When he was searching for the corpse spirit race before, he had also paid attention to the aura of the Insect Emperor, but unfortunately, he hadn't been able to find him. As such, Yang Kai directly set his sights on the limitless ocean as he believed his judgment was correct. Shadowed Star was very large, and the forces on the sea and on land were two completely different systems. Each side's cultivator rarely interfered with the lives of others, so although corpse spirit religion had caused a great deal of trouble on Shadowed Star this time, causing many of the great sects to suffer heavy losses. The forces in the deep sea had not been affected. It was for this reason that the corpse spirit race clansmen wanted to escape to the limitless ocean to avoid being hunted down by the great sects. This was not the first time young Kai had come to the limitless ocean. When he left the Emperor Garden last time, he had accidentally passed by this place, but at that time, he was anxious to return to his sect and had only seen the tip of the iceberg. This time, young Kai had deliberately searched for the whereabouts of the insect emperor, so along the way, he had experienced a completely different atmosphere from the one on land. The forces in the deep sea were definitely not to be underestimated, and many of these islands had powerful third-order origin returning realm masters presiding over them. However, now that he was the master of Shadowed Star, whether it was on land or sea made no difference to him. He could easily dominate everything on Shadowed Star. Sunrise Island belonged to the largest sect in the limitless ocean, Sea Temple. Sea Temple had a prominent reputation in the limitless ocean. Residents of the limitless ocean might not know about High Heaven Sect or Star Emperor Mountain, but they would definitely have heard of Sea Temple. This great force's history was definitely not shorter than Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon sects. After countless years of accumulation and the abundance of marine resources, Sea Temple's influence had grown larger and larger, occupying almost half of the entire Limitless Ocean's territory. In the Limitless Ocean, Sea Temple was definitely a behemoth. If it weren't for the fact that most of the secret arts they cultivated were of the water and ice attribute, greatly reducing their strength on land, Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon sect would likely have long ago ceased to exist on Shadowed Star. Sea Temple alone would have been enough to unify the entire Shadowed Star. However, due to various constraints, Sea Temple could only show off its might in the limitless ocean and was unable to extend its claws to land. On this day, young Kai arrived at Sunrise Island, which covered an area of about 1,000 kilometers. Even in the limitless ocean, this island was not small, occupying one of the top 10 spots among the islands under the name of Sea Temple. This island was rich in resources and seafood, and every year, Sea Temple would send a large number of cultivation resources to this island, making it one of the most important islands for Sea Temple. When young Kai turned into a stream of light and landed on this island, he was immediately noticed by the disciples of Sea Temple. There were some obvious differences between a cultivator on land and a cultivator at sea, whether it was in terms of clothing or skin color, so as soon as young Kai landed, he was surrounded by a group of Sea Temple disciples who were responsible for patrolling the island and maintaining security. Sunrise Island was not a place where anyone could enter and leave as they pleased. Anyone who wanted to enter had to enter from a specific location, have their identity verified, and pay a certain amount of Saint crystals before they were allowed to enter. For young Kai to land so brazenly was undoubtedly a provocation to Sea Temple. As such, the group of Sea Temple disciples all wore unfriendly expressions. Although they realized that young Kai was very strong, they did not show much fear. Young Kai didn't have any intention of dealing with them and simply took a step forward, disappearing in the next instant. Where did that little brat go? Among this group of cultivators, the strongest one called out in alarm as he looked around but was unable to find any trace of young Kai. The others also looked at each other in confusion, some of them feeling their blood run cold. The other party had mysteriously disappeared without anyone noticing. This meant that if the other party wanted to, he could also take their lives without anyone noticing. Only now did the group of Sea Temple disciples feel some fear. You all scatter and search for traces of that guy. I'll report this to the island master. The expression of the leading cultivator changed a few times before he immediately made a decision. Such a powerful master had suddenly appeared on Sunrise Island, so no matter what the other party was up to, they needed to inform the island master first. Everyone roared in agreement and immediately dispersed. In front of a remote wooden house on the island, young Kai leisurely appeared, looked up, and smiled slightly. The scenery here was quite good, facing the sea with Sunrise Island behind. At this time, the sun was setting, and the afterglow of the sun illuminated Sunrise Island, making it a good place to recuperate and heal. A few weaker cultivators were standing guard outside the wooden house, but when they saw young Kai appear, they were all stunned for a moment, but immediately after, as if they had received some kind of order. All of them pushed their Saint Chi fiercely, summoned their artifacts, and rushed towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai frowned as he noticed that something was wrong with their situation, but he did not immediately kill them and instead stretched out his hand and grasped at the void. The heaven and earth spirit Chi automatically turned into firm ropes, binding these martial artists with low strength, making them unable to move. The faces of these several cultivators suddenly turned ashen as they stared at Yang Kai in horror. "Since I'm already here, you won't be able to hide, so why don't you just show yourself? There's no point in hiding, right?" Yang Kai shouted in the direction of the wooden house, standing in place with his hands behind his back, waiting quietly. Chapter 1698. After a while, the sound of light footsteps came from inside the wooden house, and a moment later, a handsome young man walked out. This young man looked to be in his 20s and was only a third-order Saint King. He stared at Yang Kai with resentment and fear, a look of disbelief flashing across his eyes, as if he couldn't understand how he had been so easily found by Yang Kai. Staring at each other, Yang Kai's lips curled into a faint smile while the handsome young man seemed to be facing a great enemy. "How did you find this king hiding here?" The young man finally couldn't bear this silent suppression. Now that Yang Kai was giving him a lot of pressure, he could no longer remain as calm as before. "This king is certain he didn't leave behind any clues. It wasn't easy to find you," Yang Kai smiled slightly. "If it weren't for your 10,000 poison evil insects, I'm afraid I really wouldn't have been able to find you." Saying so, Yang Kai pointed to the cultivator he had imprisoned. The young man's expression became gloomy as he glanced over at the subordinates he had planted with the 10,000 poison evil insects, a look of annoyance flashing across his eyes. He hadn't expected that subduing a few subordinates would turn out to be such a huge mistake. He had been very cautious. This time, when he fled to Sunrise Island to heal his wounds, the people he had subdued were all very weak, so generally speaking, it was impossible for them to be noticed, but Yang Kai had unexpectedly seen through them. "Even so, it will still be difficult for you to kill this king. It's not like you haven't tried before, so how about this? How about we discuss this?" The young man raised his chin slightly and proposed proudly. "Not interested." Yang Kai shook his head. The young man was stunned. "You won't even listen before saying you're not interested? Aren't you afraid you'll regret it?" "There's nothing to regret. Today you'll die without a doubt." Yang Kai sneered. The young man also laughed as he stared at Yang Kai sarcastically, saying in an arrogant tone, "Little brat, your ability to talk big isn't small. Last time, this king was able to escape from you, so this king can do the same this time, but if you don't bother this king anymore, this king can give you some benefits. I guarantee you a lifetime of benefits." "What benefits can a guy who can control exotic insects give me?" Yang Kai laughed. The young man's expression changed again as his brow furrowed and asked tentatively, "Do you know this king's background?" "It doesn't make any difference whether I know or not. I'll kill you today." Yang Kai, Yang Kai, and Yang Kai, Yang Kai, and Yang Kai, Yang Kai. Boys. Yang Kai's SSSS, S, Yang, Chi SSS. He knew that with his current strength, he was not Yang Kai's opponent at all, so he had no intention of protecting this body. Instead, he planned to self-destruct. Yang's escape. Yang's of SS of STS to his. The heaven and earth spirit Chi quickly gathered, and the youth in front of him seemed to be imprisoned in an instant. Frozen mid-air, Yang Kai was no longer able to move, and the Saint Chi that was about to explode seemed to be suppressed and instantly calmed down. The young man's eyes finally revealed a look of fear as he asked in horror, "What kind of technique is this?" As soon as he finished speaking, he seemed to have thought of something and his eyes trembled as he looked at Yang Kai. "You can mobilize the power of the stars. Have you refined the origin of the stars? As expected of the insect emperor, you have good taste." Yang Kai sneered. His hand didn't stop moving, and he clenched it hard. With a loud explosion, the young man's body exploded into a bloody mist. Amidst the blood mist, a strand of spirit power frantically tried to escape. Last time, Yang Kai and Qian Tong had joined forces to deal with the Insect Emperor, but this time, Yang Kai had become the Star Master of Shadowed Star. What's more, Yang Kai was prepared, so how could he allow this Insect Emperor to escape? With a single thought, Yang Kai transformed the surrounding several dozen meters into a solid cage. No matter how the strand of spirit power struggled, it was unable to escape, as if there was an invisible barrier around it that prevented it from escaping. After several attempts, the Insect Emperor obviously knew that he was doomed and no longer tried to do anything useless. Gathering his spirit power at a speed visible to the naked eye, it condensed into a vague figure in the void. The figure looked at Yang Kai with gloomy eyes, his body flickering like a burning flame as he said in a deep voice, "This king concedes. Let me go, and whatever benefits you want, this king will give you." Yang Kai curled his lips and stretched out his hand to grab him. The Insect Emperor was unable to dodge at all and his spirit power was directly grabbed by Yang Kai. He struggled violently but was unable to break free from Yang Kai's grasp, only able to curse loudly and scream hysterically. Yang Kai rubbed his hands together and with a sharp scream, the Insect Emperor's soul turned into nothingness, completely disappearing from this world. A turquoise saber-shaped artifact that seemed to have shrunk countless times and a small and exquisite bracelet appeared in Yang Kai's hand. Both of them exuded an evil emperor pressure. There was nothing unusual about the bracelet, but when Yang Kai released his divine sense to investigate it, a strange power surged out from the turquoise saber-shaped artifact and cut off Yang Kai's divine sense. An emperor artifact. Yang Kai raised his brow as a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. Now, he did not lack artifacts and even had 2 Emperor Artifact-grade artifacts. One was the offensive-type Annihilation Thunder Bead and the other was the Sealed World Bead. These 2 things were known as the 2 Emperor Artifact Beads in Star Emperor Mountain. Now that he had suddenly obtained 2 more, Yang Kai was overjoyed. No one would complain about having too many treasures, especially Emperor Artifact. Yang Kai knew about the turquoise saber that had shrunk countless times and could cut off soul sense. The last time the Insect Emperor used it, Yang Yang had said that it was the soul-splitting saber and that its power was unfathomable. As for that small bracelet, Kai Yang didn't know what it was or what it was used for. He tried to release his divine sense to investigate but was blocked by an invisible barrier, unable to penetrate it at all. Yang Kai could only give up. After all, this bracelet was the Insect Emperor's artifact and the barrier it set was not something he could easily break. Although he didn't understand the use of the bracelet, Kai Yang could feel a fiendish power coming from it. That power made him tremble with fear. After fiddling with it for a while, Yang Kai put away the soul-splitting saber and the bracelet. He did not have time to refine these 2 things for the time being. Just as he finished doing this, Yang Kai noticed a powerful aura flying over from the center of the island, quickly approaching him. Obviously, the elders of Sunrise Island had noticed the world energy fluctuations just now and had come to investigate. Yang Kai did not leave immediately and instead stood in place, waiting thoughtfully. A moment later, a burly man suddenly descended from the sky. He was over 4 meters tall and had a wide nose and mouth, giving him an oppressive majesty that made anyone who stood next to him tremble in fear. This man had a long scar on his face that stretched from the tip of his brow to his chin, making him look even more terrifying. After the man arrived, he saw the blood on the ground at a glance and could not help but fly into a rage, shouting, "Where did this bastard come from? How dare you act so presumptuously on Sunrise Island?" Saying so, he sent out a palm strike towards Yang Kai without giving him a chance to explain. This man was a 3rd-order origin returning realm cultivator, no weaker than Qian Tong and Fei Ji Tu in the past. His huge body and huge palm contained infinite power, causing the air around him to crack. Even a cultivator in the same realm would have at least a dozen broken bones if they were hit by this palm. Yang Kai's brow furrowed. Although he was somewhat displeased that the other party had attacked him without asking for a reason, he remembered that he was also an uninvited guest, so he didn't care too much. He just casually waved his hand and the sturdy man was sent flying by an invisible force. The man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he stared at Yang Kai as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Soon after, he landed lightly on the ground, no longer looking down on Yang Kai. He also discovered that Yang Kai had no intention of harming him, otherwise, how could he have landed so calmly? With the means Yang Kai had just shown, he could have killed him in the blink of an eye. Realizing this, the man took a deep breath and no longer dared to act arrogantly, shouting, "Who is your excellency? State your name." Yang Kai grinned, cupped his fists, and said, "High Heaven Sect, Yang Kai." High Heaven Sect. The man thought for a moment before his body shook and he exclaimed, "Your sect Master Yang Kai of High Heaven Sect?" Although he lived in the internal sea, the man had obviously heard of High Heaven Sect and Yang Kai. However, he never expected that this High Heaven Sect master would be so strong. "This friend is..." Yang Kai looked at him and asked. The man frowned but still answered truthfully, "Sunrise Island's Island Master, Pang Zhan." "So it is Island Master Pang, a pleasure to meet you." Yang Kai cupped his fists and greeted. Pang Zhen's expression changed as he recovered from his initial shock. Although he knew he was not Yang Kai's opponent, he could not lose his backbone and the prestige of Sea Temple, so he quickly said, "Although Sect Master Yang is the Sect Master of High Heaven Sect, my Sea Temple has nothing to do with High Heaven Sect. Sect Master Yang can't just casually kill someone on my Sea Temple's island, right?" This Pang would like to ask why this is so. As the master of an island, he naturally had to protect the safety of the martial artists on the island. Pang Zhen could not pretend that he did not see a person die on the island for no apparent reason. Otherwise, if word got out, it would damage his reputation. Yang Kai hesitated for a moment before saying, "Island Master Pang, please forgive this Yang. This Yang did not kill him for no reason, but he had no choice but to die." To tell Island Master Pang the truth, this Yang set out to sea this time to find him. Can Sect Master Yang explain? Seeing Yang Kai act so politely, Pang Zhen's expression eased greatly. Naturally. Yang Kai smiled faintly and explained the reason behind it. Pang Zhen listened in shock, unable to believe what Yang Kai said was true. He thought Yang Kai was just making up an excuse. Knowing that he had doubts, Yang Kai smiled and said, "Island Master Pang will understand after looking at these things." Saying so, Yang Kai reached out and grabbed one of the cultivator he had previously imprisoned. Chapter 1699. The weaker cultivator had originally been controlled by the Insect Emperor's 10,000 poison evil insects, so after Yang Kai arrived here, he had no intention of harming them and had simply imprisoned them in place. At this moment, following Yang Kai's actions, these cultivators all trembled and their faces distorted, as if they were enduring great pain. Two of them even began foaming at the mouth and collapsed, but their lives were not in danger. Pang Zhen watched on coldly, no longer acting as rashly as before. A moment later, accompanied by a series of creaking noises, several streams of light suddenly shot out from the minds of these cultivator. Yang Kai grabbed these things and then spread his hands, gesturing to Pang Zhen. A few strange-looking black and red insects the size of fingernails struggled to break free from Yang Kai's grasp, but they were unable to break free from his grasp. Pang Zhen stared blankly for a long time before gulping. "These are 10,000 poison evil insects." He had never seen these insects before, but he felt a trace of barbaric aura from them, as if these insects were from ancient times, giving him a sense of danger. Those who have been implanted with 10,000 poison evil insects will be subjected to the control of their master. Yang Kai smiled lightly. "Can I take a look?" Pang Zhen was delighted and wanted to take one of these 10,000 poison evil insects back to study. Although these things were dangerous, if he studied them thoroughly and understood how to use them, it would be tantamount to learning a new secret technique. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. "If Island Master Pang is not afraid of them drilling into his knowledge sea, I can give them to you." Pang Zhen's face paled and he hesitated for a long time. Finally, he shook his head and said, "Forget it, this Pang doesn't have enough strength. Sect Master Yang can deal with these things himself." Yang Kai smiled lightly and flicked his wrist, crushing the struggling 10,000 poison evil insects into dust. After understanding that what had happened before was really a misunderstanding and that Yang Kai had not indiscriminately killed the innocent on Sunrise Island and had instead helped him solve a huge problem, Pang Zhen's attitude towards Yang Kai suddenly became much warmer. Perhaps, what he was more afraid of was Yang Kai's strength. No one in the entire untroubled ocean had the ability to send him flying with a wave of his hand. Pang Zhen tried his best to invite Yang Kai to his mansion. Yang Kai also intended to communicate with him. Naturally, he had no choice but to obey. Pang Zhen was the island master of Sunrise Island. The mansion occupied the best piece of spiritual land on Sunrise Island, and the construction was extremely majestic. After entering the mansion, Pang Zhen immediately ordered the servants to serve up delicacies and fine wine. More than 10 of them were dressed in gauze. Beautiful young girls with faintly discernible bodies were singing and dancing to Guan Shen's music. A group of origin returning realm masters on the island accompanied him. The atmosphere was very lively. Regarding the changes that had taken place in the inland in recent years, Ocean Palace had also heard a lot about it, but because it hadn't spread to the deep sea, Ocean Palace wasn't too clear about the details. Pang Zhen warmly invited Yang Kai. On one hand, they were optimistic about Yang Kai's strength. On the other hand, they wanted to find out about the current situation on the mainland. Of course, Yang Kai had nothing to hide. When they learned that corpse spirit religion had been uprooted, everyone from Ocean Palace exclaimed, and when they learned that Chen Tong was really an origin king realm master, Pang Zhen and the others showed deep worry on their faces. Shadowed Star hadn't seen an origin king realm master for tens of thousands of years. This was a realm that had been passed down from generation to generation, but no one had been able to reach it. Pang Zhen and the others didn't know how strong an origin king realm master was, but this didn't prevent them from worrying. They were worried that Chen Tong's ambitions would soar and he would extend his claws into the deep sea. Although Ocean Palace's influence in the uncharted ocean was extremely large, whether it could resist an origin king realm master was still something they weren't confident about. Yang Kai observed their expressions and naturally understood what they were worried about. Although he was secretly amused, he didn't point it out. Not to mention whether Chen Tong had such intentions, even if he did, it would be difficult for him to conquer the uncharted ocean alone. Shadow Moon Hall didn't have such great ability. Pang Zhen and the others were a little worried. Island Master Pang, this Yang has a request to make. I wonder if Island Master Pang can agree. After 3 rounds of wine, Yang Kai suddenly said. Please speak, Sect Master Yang. Pang Zhen quickly raised his head and looked over. I would like to meet with the temple masters of your Ocean Palace, Yang Kai said with a smile before taking a sip of wine. Pang Zhen was stunned. May I ask what Sect Master Yang's request is? Although Yang Kai's identity and status were indeed qualified to meet with the temple masters of Ocean Palace, Pang Zhen still couldn't help but ask. Everyone else also looked at Yang Kai curiously. A good thing. Yang Kai smiled mysteriously. This sect master wants to open up a material exchange between the uncharted ocean and the inland. Island Master Pang, you also know that the uncharted ocean and the inland have different environments and specialties. Cultivation materials that can be easily found in the uncharted ocean may be extremely precious on the inland. Conversely, things that can be easily found on the inland may also be very precious in the uncharted ocean. If we can exchange what we lack, it will be of great benefit to the disciples of our respective forces. This was the reason why Yang Kai wanted to stay, otherwise, after killing the Insect Emperor, he would have left long ago. How could he have wasted so much time? High Heaven Sect was no longer the same as before. In the past, it only had a few hundred people at most, so it was easy to support them. Any batch of materials would be enough for them to cultivate, but now, Yang Kai had brought nearly 10,000 people from Tongxian realm with him. Every month, they would need an unimaginable amount of supplies. Even if High Heaven Sect had some accumulation, it wouldn't be able to last for more than a few years. Just like the current situation, after the war with corpse spirit religion, the entire inland had withered and the yuan qi of the various sects had been greatly damaged, so cultivation materials were extremely scarce. Yang Kai had taken a fancy to the difference in material output between the uncharted ocean and the inland. If he could really achieve this, not only would he be able to relieve some of his current worries, but he would also no longer need to worry about a lack of cultivation materials in the future. All he needed to do was resell these materials and he could quickly accumulate a lot of wealth. Although he was now the master of Shadowed Star and could freely travel to any place he wished, even forcing Sea Temple to submit by force, Yang Kai did not want to do so. He would rather have the inland and the deep sea interact with each other and mutually benefit each other. Standing at the height of Shadowed Star's master, he sometimes needed to consider the entire Shadowed Star. Hearing this proposal, Pang Zhen's eyes lit up, but he soon frowned and said, Sect Master Yang is not the first person to want to do this. Someone from my Sea Temple has also proposed such a thing, but due to the difficulty in transporting some special materials and the inconvenience of traveling back and forth, the matter was left unsettled. Although there are now some trade exchanges between the uncharted ocean and the inland, these are limited to the few coastal cities. Seeing Yang Kai's expression, Yang Kai knew that it was not that Sea Temple's people were not interested in the inland materials, but rather that it was simply too troublesome and would take too long. If not for that, Yang Kai would not have even considered this matter. The most important thing was that they did not have a fixed trading partner. With Sea Temple's huge force, only a few sects on the inland continent were qualified to stand on equal footing with it, while the other great forces could only look up to it. None of these great forces had any intention of trading with Sea Temple, so Sea Temple itself was in a difficult position. Yang Kai smiled and said, What if I can solve these problems? Pang Zhen's expression brightened. Can Sect Master Yang really do this? Yang Kai nodded with a serious expression. Pang Zhen laughed and said, If Sect Master Yang can do this, then this matter can be discussed. However, I cannot decide on this matter and can only report it to the several temple masters and let them decide. This Yang has long heard of Sea Temple's great name. The several temple masters are wise and will not refuse such a good thing, Yang Kai chuckled. Pang Zhen was in a good mood and raised his glass, Then I wish this matter a success. When the time comes, this Pang will likely have to ask Sect Master Yang to take good care of him. If this matter really came to fruition, Pang Zhen would undoubtedly take the credit for it. This was a win-win situation for him, and he might even be able to use this opportunity to raise his status in Sea Temple. As such, his attitude towards Yang Kai became more and more amiable, treating him as an honored guest. Deep into the night, the banquet ended and Kai Yang was arranged to rest in a luxurious room. There were several beautiful young girls who served him at his beck and call. Yang Kai sent them out, each of these young girls looking at him with resentful eyes, causing Yang Kai to feel quite guilty. Yang Kai thought that the matter he proposed would also be of great benefit to Sea Temple, so Sea Temple should be quite enthusiastic, but to his surprise, after waiting for 3 days on Sunrise Island, not a single Sea Temple master came to negotiate with him. This made Yang Kai feel somewhat confused. Logically speaking, although Sea Temple was a huge force, there were space arrays between each island, so if Sea Temple's headquarters really attached enough importance to this matter, they could have rushed to Sunrise Island in half a day. Delaying for 3 days could only mean that the other party did not have enough confidence in his ability or were not enthusiastic about this matter. Yang Kai was not in a hurry though. Now that the hidden dangers of corpse spirit religion had been eliminated, there was nothing important for him to decide on in High Heaven Sect. With Yi Shiyun in charge, it didn't matter whether he returned or not. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yang Kai carefully considered the various changes after becoming Star Master. As the Master of Shadowed Star, Yang Kai could naturally travel anywhere at will. As long as he had enough divine sense and Saint Chi, he could cross millions or even tens of millions of kilometers in an instant, but doing so would place a great burden on his body. Crossing hundreds of thousands of kilometers in an instant was not difficult for him. This was just a minor convenience after becoming a Star Master. Of course, the biggest benefit was that Yang Kai could cultivate on Shadowed Star. The world energy was fierce and unrestrained, allowing Yang Kai's cultivation speed to increase by several dozen or even 100 times compared to before. This was something no one else could achieve. In battle, Yang Kai could easily mobilize Shadowed Star's world energy and kill all his enemies without any effort. This had been verified before. However, there was one thing that Yang Kai was very concerned about. He vaguely noticed that there was an invisible force covering Shadowed Star. This force had characteristics of imprisonment and sealing, like a barrier that prevented any cultivator on Shadowed Star from exploring and comprehending more profound cultivators. It was because of the existence of this barrier that no Origin King had been born on Shadowed Star for tens of thousands of years. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,